Welcome, everybody, to the Fastback Podcast, where we discuss the beauty that is the Fast and Furious franchise, among other related action films. As always, my name is Justin, and I'm joined by my co-host, Leif. Leif, how's it going this week?
Oh, pretty good. You?
We are both enjoying a nice, icy, caffeine-free Diet Dr. Pepper.
Yeah.
I think it would just smashed his finger on a door or something. He's trying not to scream to ruin the podcast. Does Diet Dr. Pepper taste like regular Dr. Pepper? It's probably been about 25 years since I've had a regular Dr. Pepper. Can you confirm that is the case?
Yeah, I have no idea what a real Dr. Pepper tastes like anymore, but that is because...
Yeah, I can't have caffeine and we cannot have sugar, so we're just going to live in a world where we assume that Diet Dr. Pepper, caffeine-free, tastes like regular Dr. Pepper.
We are living as furiously as possible in spite of ourselves.
We have no real news this week.
No.
I think we're kind of in a news drought as far as movies go. All the big summer-type movies are coming out.
Mm-hmm.
The news that's going to be announced about the next couple years' big summer movies will happen in about a month or 6 weeks when we start having all the conventions. So right now we're kind of in that spot where we're watching the stuff that's coming out and waiting to hear about the stuff that will be coming out soon. So no real news to announce this week, but what we can announce, luckily, is that we are back on track and doing a Fast and Furious episode this week after, I guess, about 3 weeks?
Was it 3? Yeah, I think so.
Whoever hasn't listened to the podcast before, the podcast was started with the intention as an experiment for us to watch the 8 Fast and Furious movies, possibly the 3 XXX movies, just to break up the Fast and Furious movies a little bit. We were going to do plus an introduction and maybe a farewell episode. It was going to be 12 or 13 episodes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Boom, throw it up on YouTube. That was going to be it. We were going to see where we go from there, maybe do another podcast, maybe continue on with that one. And we've enjoyed it from the get-go, so we started to go into little segues. We went to Top Gun, which made a little bit of sense. Mm-hmm. And then last week, I will admittedly say that we completely went off the rails.
That was
and did the 2004 Halle Berry disaster piece. Is that a word? Did I just coin an amazing word, so. Disaster piece?
We can find out. This will be great. In the OED... It'll be 2017
disaster piece.
Disaster piece.
Somebody's had to use the term disaster piece.
We shall doodle this later.
If not, tune in next week for what our new podcast, Disaster Piece, where we just talk. There has to be Disaster Piece because that would mean that somebody has a podcast where they talk about terrible movies called Disaster Piece Theater. And if that does not exist... Next week, we no longer have a thing called the Fastback Podcast.
Fastback Podcast.
We have a podcast called Disaster Piece Theater where we talk about movies like Catwoman and The Edge. And
The Edge was not a disaster. The Edge was a beautiful masterpiece.
It's taking everything in my power not to hit pause right now and see if Google Disaster Piece Theater and see if this exists. But we go on.
We will check.
We go on because later. We're actually excited about this week's podcast.
Yeah, we were back with Fast and Furious 5.
We're back on track. I think we like to talk about what the podcast is on the podcast, which may be annoying for some people because we always talk about next week we're going to do this. We never do what we're going to talk about next week.
This is a podcast about a podcast.
This is a podcast about a podcast. I think we went a little off track, but we've not boxed ourselves into certain things with this podcast.
No, that's why we have the caveat and other related action films.
But I will say, having it been my sole idea, Catwoman was a little bit too far off the beaten path.
Was not a related action film, no.
Of what we would usually want to talk about. Top Gun was fine.
Yeah.
Catwoman was a little bit off the beaten path. So anyone who trudged through that, we apologize.
But thanks for listening.
And this week we were going to go see The Mummy and talk about The Mummy.
Yes.
And then that evolved into maybe that wouldn't be a long enough episode. So we'll see The Mummy and we'll also watch the Brendan Fraser Mummy.
Yes.
And we'll talk about both of those. Logistically, we were not able to go see The Mummy together this week.
No.
Which was a happy accident because I did go and see The Mummy.
Well, and also we had our late night conference call of planning
Yeah,
And
which we do every week when we
yes.
talk about this is what we said we're going to do last week. What are we actually going to do this week? I got about 30 minutes. A couple things happened. I got about 30 minutes into the Brendan Fraser Mummy, and it's perfectly enjoyable as I remember, but maybe not a lot for us to talk about. And maybe we don't follow Top Gun with Catwoman, with the Mummy. We both decided maybe we kind of get back in the right
Yeah.
vein and do a Fast and Furious episode. Also, logistically, we were not able to go see the Mummy together. I did go see it yesterday for my usual Monday matinee, and it was not great. I don't know how much we would have been able to talk about it. I think we can get some mileage out of it when it comes out on DVD and we can take some notes, but coming out of the theater, I do think we would have been like, yep, that was the Mummy.
Well, and I think, too, learning from Catwoman, the more unbelievable the movie starts out to be as, the worse it's trying to talk about, the worse it is analyzing it, the worse it just is generally.
Yeah, you made a good point. Triple X and Fast and Furious movies, while not realistic, are a happy medium.
Yeah.
Where there's some meat on the bones to talk about.
Because in spite of everything else, there isn't a mystical Catwoman in Triple X. No. There is Yordi, who is mystical, but completely believable. So,
long story short, and we got a little bit of time to kill here on the top end because we don't have any news items. We decided this week when we talked on the phone, like I said, let's get back in the right lane. And it's time to do.
Keep on pushing that car.
I'm trying. I did. That's what it's about. I try to push a little bit of a card puns every now and then.
We're turning the wheel.
We're turning the wheel, and we're getting back. And I said, maybe it's time to do a Fast and the Furious, because I think it would have been after last week's experience of sitting here and trying to talk about Catwoman, and I didn't get too far into the Mummy, but sitting here and talking about Brendan Fraser's The Mummy, the week after Catwoman, the week after Top Gun, I think it would have been just drudgery, to be honest with you. Even if we enjoyed The Mummy, it would have been like,
it would no longer be a podcast. It would be a chorecast.
Yeah, let's get back to Fast and Furious, and by God, luckily enough, the next one up was Fast 5. Let me give you the 30-second sales pitch, folks. For anybody who might be listening for the first time, this is the Fastback Podcast. As I said, we decided to start a podcast where we would talk about the Fast and the Furious movies and other related action films because Fast 8, Fate of the Furious, came out this summer. I give this spiel not every episode, but every time we talk about a Fast and Furious. Leif had never seen these movies before, except for Tokyo Drift years ago. I had seen these movies maybe once, some of them while on my laptop, some of them pausing to do a million other things, but this is also somewhat my first time in sitting down and giving them a good, legitimate watch. We are watching these backwards. We're watching them one from the 8th one back, so we've obviously talked about Fate of the Furious, Furious 7, Fast and Furious 6, and now what many, almost everybody would consider the crown jewel of this franchise, Fast 5.
Yeah.
So we're going to get into it. If you haven't listened to us before, the way this podcast goes is that I hand it over to Leif to start discussing the plot. I interrupt him endlessly with notes that I've made. We take notes on the movie to keep us on track because when you watch a movie, as we've learned, and you talk about it 2 or 3 days later, it's very easy to go, that part with the jet was cool.
Yeah.
And, hey, you know what was really cool? That part when he punched him. But you lose the finer details, you lose the thread of the plot, and it just becomes two guys talking about, remember that part? Remember that part?
Remember that?
It very much still turns into remember that part. But
at least
it's more detailed,
of order.
And there's some kind of order.
We can tell ourselves there's order at least.
Leif tries to do his best to push us along through the notes, so this doesn't turn into a 2-hour and 45-minute thing, which always ends up turning into a 2-hour and 45-minute thing.
Yes.
At the end of it, we give our review, so to speak. We're not critics. We give just our general review of it. And we do a couple little things like what we thought his most absurd moment was, what my favorite line was. And then we talk about what we're going to talk about next week, which we never end up talking about the next week. So that's it, folks.
There we go.
If you're 10 minutes into it, that's what you're in store for. You can push stop now. You can trudge right through it with us. We're fine either way. We just enjoy talking about this. We're glad if you join us for the ride.
Okay.
Leif, take the wheel.
Here I am.
Fast 5.
It's all up to me now.
It's all up to you.
Okay, so...
Already went to the notes. This is why we have the notes.
No. I just all of a sudden,
chance.
I was just frozen. Like, oh man, the all up to me now phrase just hit me with reality.
We're busting Dom out.
Yeah.
Of the prison
so
bus.
he's in jail.
He's on his way to jail.
Yeah. Well,
the beginning the beginning that we see, and you don't know this because as we said, Leif is watching these backwards. That little beginning you see when he's in court is the end of the 4th movie.
Okay.
Okay, and you'll find out why they're so disappointed, and you'll find out how he gets there when we watch the 4th movie. I don't want to spoil that for you, but we open with this movie, and he's on a prison transport bus.
Well, it was already spoiled for me because up until today, I thought the 4th movie was Tokyo Drift.
Yeah, we talked about that at Target when we were killing time before the podcast.
Yeah.
We looked at some Blu-rays. I have these on DVD. I haven't committed to getting them on Blu-ray. But I'm going to have to because there's some shorts that we're going to want to talk about that if we can't find online, we're only going to be able to see them on Blu-ray. I'd like to be able to see them to have the complete experience because it is part of the timeline when you go on their Wikipedia page and the Fast and Furious wiki.
And if it ain't
in there,
in the wiki, it ain't real.
It's canon. So let me ask you this real quick before we go too far into this. Do you ever see a point? You're not a physical media guy, so I don't think you would buy these anyway. But if you still were, if we weren't in the streaming age, and you were still, you know, if it was still 2001 and you were still buying DVDs or now Blu-rays, and I asked you this, have you gotten to a point, because are we more than halfway through now? This is the 5th, 5, 6, 7, 8.
We're exactly
halfway through. At this point, I'm going to ask you 2 things. One, would you buy these? If this was 2001 and you were still buying physical media, would you be like, I'm going to buy this Blu-ray 8-disc set of Fast and Furious? And 2, and save this for the end. Okay, you can answer the Blu-ray question now. This second question I'd like for you to save till the end. I'll be very curious to find out if you are actually if you're still just enjoying these from an ironic standpoint from the podcast, or if you are actually starting to enjoy these movies. And you know what I mean by that, and I think anybody listening. So, off the bat, would you buy these on Blu-ray? Would you want to own these?
It's interesting because you can buy them for streaming.
Sure.
So really it's
still okay, so the question still stands.
Yeah, and I think, it's kind of weird because I want to say I probably would.
Okay. Do you see yourself ever going back to these?
Well, see, that's the thing, so like because they're not on Netflix.
Yeah, they're not on Netflix right now. They're not on Prime. So we check every week.
So you have to either rent them or buy them.
Yeah, well, Netflix has a lot to do with what we choose to watch from week to week, as was shown by Catwoman, which happened to be on Netflix.
Which we might need to just take a break from Netflix, is what it's turning out to be. However, no, so that's the thing. I would probably... See, I don't know. I don't know if I'd go back to watch them. There's really only one movie I routinely rewatch.
Okay.
So that's...
Did I insult that movie earlier in this very podcast? For anyone who's paying attention? Is it The Edge? Or...
No.
Okay, all right.
That used to be. That was 2003, Leif.
What's your go-back movie right now?
The Fire Within.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen it.
Brilliant movie. Louis Malle.
Okay. Is it... I'm completely ignorant. Is it Fastback podcast material?
No. Oh, heavens, no.
All right.
It's about a guy who has alcohol problems and then kills himself.
All right.
It's not Fastback material.
Is it good for what might be our new podcast that probably already exists, Disaster Piece Theater?
It's not a bad movie. It's a great movie.
Disaster Piece Theater could also be a podcast where we talk about disaster movies. Like 2012 and Twister.
There we go.
The Day After Tomorrow.
We should have just been giving ourselves a new job here.
All right.
Well, anyway, we're segueing.
All right, folks. So we apologize. Prison Break. Last week we'd done everything we can to talk about not to talk about Catwoman. In this movie, I actually want to talk to about. So let's get into it.
All right. So he's on the whole judge scene, all of that. He's on the bus, and immediately cars show up.
Yeah.
And
we see Mia. We see Brian. And I think that's it. There's someone else driving along with them, but I don't know if we see who that is, and I don't know if this is because that is footage from the last movie and they're not in this one. I can't remember. Or is it just 2 cars?
I only remember them, but I don't know. There could have been 3 cars.
So they do some driving trickery.
Yeah.
And they tip the bus by...
He stops the car in front of the bus as it tries to swerve out of the way.
Yeah.
And the bus...
Instead of just crushing his car...
Yeah, the car's fine. Perfect.
Over the bus. The bus trips over the car like you would trip over your kid's toy on the steps.
Yeah. And just
flips 100 times.
Destroyed.
Yeah, he spins. For anyone listening who hasn't seen it, do yourself a favor, right off the top. If you are not a fan of these movies, one, why are you listening to this podcast? But if you are, thank you. If you haven't seen at least this one, and I'm not watching Fast and Furious movies, do yourself a favor and at least watch this one.
Yeah.
It's very self-contained. Mm-hmm. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, for whoever hasn't seen it, he just slides into the bus and the bus goes bloop and trips over just flips over his car. And then...
It reminded me of those wedge cars from...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like the wedge car from 6.
Yeah.
Fast and Furious 6. So we then see some news reporter stuff and montage their fugitives.
No one was injured.
Yes, they make a point. They make a point to point out that nobody was injured because we don't want them to be
evil.
We don't want them to be murderers. You know, no one's ever hurt.
But at the same time, the bus did have a series of rolls.
Well, the bus had a series of rolls and was filled with men that would not have the option to brace themselves or to move. They were just locked in, literally.
Yeah,
with their ankles shackled and their hands shackled to their ankles, cannot, like I said, brace themselves, duck for cover. You're strapped to a seat and being tipped over in a bus going 80 miles an hour 30 times down a desert road.
But
everybody's fine.
Yeah,
they're fine.
It's another fastback miracle.
It's another fastback miracle. So they're all fugitives now, as we see from footage. And they do a credit montage.
Yeah.
Which I don't remember the credit montage of this. It's not a flashback.
No.
I don't think it's much of
I think there are little flashbacky
little flashy scenes in there.
But not like a...
And so we see Fast 5. Yeah. It's like a real Fast 5 thing. And we are then whisked away through the magic of cinema to South America.
Yeah, Rio.
We're in Rio. We start off in Rio. So we start off in Rio.
Yeah, because it's Brian and Mia going up the steps.
Yes.
Of Shanty Rio.
Yes. Which I liked a lot of the photography in this movie. I liked a lot of the aerial shots of Rio and the cities. And I mean, I'm sure this is something that I've seen a million times growing up, but never really paid attention to. I kind of loved the aesthetic and the look of this city, which looks like it's just carved into the side of a mountain, and it's just this weird architecture where houses on top of houses, jumbled on top of each other, on top of hills. It was very cool. It made for a couple very cool action sequences, and I just thought it was kind of just kind of beautiful imagery. Yep. So they're going up the steps to see Vince. You have no experience.
I had no idea who this guy was.
Vince is in the first.
Yeah, going up. All of a sudden, all the dudes come out with guns.
Yes, and if I remember correctly, Vince is a romantic rival for Mia's affections. He's Dominic's childhood friend, much in the way you and I are. And in the first one, he is, I believe, Dom's right-hand dude. Okay. And then Brian gets into the picture, and then there's the bromance, and then poor Vince is jealous of both Brian's relationship with Mia and with Dom.
We were talking earlier. Vince just sort of came off as the Fast and Furious D student for me. Where, everyone was just sort of oh, Vince.
Oh, Vince. I thought it was cool that they brought him back. And I got these movies all about 2 years ago. I just said, you know what? This is such a huge cultural thing. You know me. They don't. If it's something of a huge cultural level, I have to at least check it out to see what the fuss is about. Yeah. Whether it's Harry Potter... Or I read the Hunger Games books and watched the movies. The only thing I never did was Twilight.
Yeah, well, that was my excuse for Twilight.
So you did jump into Twilight.
I've seen all the Twilights.
Okay, because I haven't seen them.
And
are they really?
I am at Team Edward. Yeah. So anyway,
are they enjoyable?
For me, yes, but I
Okay.
don't know why, and I don't know what that says about me.
All right. So I will jump into something pop culture related because I love it. And so I bought these things and I watched them, and I watched them all in a row. So for me, it was cool to see the people like, oh yeah, he was just in that one I watched 2 days ago.
Yeah.
But for other people who've been watching this franchise, taking the long way and just watching it as they come out every 2 to 3 to 4 years, I do think it's pretty cool, and it must be satisfying to bring characters back from past movies. That's kind of one of the things that I enjoy about this franchise. And now that we've seen all of these, or you, by the time the 9th one comes out, if all of a sudden, Han does pop back up, or
I would die.
So and so, yeah, it would be great. So I can see why people love that. So that's Vince. You'll see more of Vince in a couple episodes. But they're visiting Vince, and he's happy to see Mia.
Yeah, and he sort of does this look at Brian.
He calls him Buster. He's like, oh, hello, Buster. Because that's what he calls him. It's great. You're going to love it, because the whole entire first movie, he's like, the Buster! Buster! He just keeps calling him Buster for some reason, and sometimes when he's talking to him, he refers to him as Buster. When he's talking to somebody else, he refers to him as the Buster. So I don't know what it is, I don't know what it means, but it's great. I like Vince. So he gives her a hug, and he's like, Buster. And then he says, how does it feel to be on the other side of a wanted poster? Which I liked. Yeah. It shows history with the franchise. So we get in there, and they're eating, and Mia has some news. Yeah. We find out for the first time.
Yeah, because women know immediately when another woman's pregnant.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
I didn't notice
She was washing her face.
Yeah, I didn't notice anything that would have tipped it off, but...
At first, when I first saw this a while ago, and I remembered that this lady knew, because I remember the same thing, I'm like, did she see her get sick? But even that
maybe that's enough. What it was. Maybe it could have been an allusion to, morning sickness or something.
Because she sees her, being ill.
Yeah.
But what if,
Or she
no, your cooking is just bad.
Or she should have just drank the water in Rio.
Yeah, it's like, no, your cooking is terrible. I just scarfed down 5 pounds of rice in 3 minutes because I haven't eaten in 2 weeks. So they're on the run.
Yeah.
They're on the run, and things are looking desperate for him. Mia's pregnant, and she goes, does he know? And she goes, no, he doesn't know. And we've seen this before, or we will see this again, but we've seen it before with Mia being afraid to tell Brian that she's pregnant.
Yeah.
For whatever reason is going on in their relationship when she can't tell that she's pregnant. And we see that they're on money is running low.
Yeah, money is low. Dire Straits time, blah, blah,
but
blah.
luckily enough, good old Vince comes through.
Vince has the plan. He has a job. Easy job. And,
yeah, he's got an easy job. Fast forward a couple minutes, spoiler alert, to this job. Don't seem easy. Seems pretty complicated.
Yeah. When they're, having to assault the train in this weird, custom truck thing.
Yeah, they have this weird... Well, we'll get to it, because it's basically the next scene. He says he has a job for him. Dom's not around. They say, have you seen Dom? Dom's up north somewhere. By north, we don't mean North America, but we mean more the northern part of South America. Yeah. He's up north somewhere. Which I think in the X 3 movie, he's doing work somewhere in South America as well. So this could play into your theory that you have that Dom and X are the same guy, and they just
would be
Wasn't
great.
that your theory that you had during X?
Well, my theory is that everything is the same universe. So
so
it could be.
Dom is up. He's not around. He's somewhere else in South America, bringing soccer to the youth, which is a plot point of X 3, which we will get to very soon.
But he shows up in time for...
He shows up in time for the job. Now, let's explain what the job is, because we were just talking about it. They have to... There's cars... There's a train that's going through the desert.
Steal these cars.
Or not the desert, wherever it's going through. Yeah. And the cars are on the train. They have to pull up alongside of the train.
And, this
They have
weird,
to cut the boxcar open
Max.
with a torch. Yes, this very Mad Max thing.
Really weird... That's the thing. I marvel at the weird truck they used, because that thing was
It reaches into the boxcar. No, you strap a car around.
Yeah, they have the chains on it.
Yes.
They put the car in. Well, see, first of all, they cut the wall off of this.
They cut the wall out of the boxcar.
Which, when the wall peeled off, I thought it took 2 of their guys away.
It almost did. It was like they dodged, and you're like, yeah, that could have easily killed everybody right there.
Yeah.
And so now they have to keep pace with the train.
Yeah, so they keep in pace.
They wrap
they
chains
put
around
those
the
chains
cars.
in the cars, and then they pull them out, and then they immediately like flip the bed of the truck.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
then
because
they
it's
drive
like a tow
off.
truck. Like it pulls them out like super quick. They slam against the side of this truck because obviously it has a stopper, so they just don't go flying off the other end.
And
then they turn the car on. The tow truck thing goes down. They back out and maintain their speed and drive off. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool idea.
Which, though, if you're trying to get like super fancy rear cars to buyers,
yes,
you just destroyed the car.
You just destroyed a lot of it. And also, if I'm on this job and you come to me and we're in this life, and you come to me and we go, I got this easy job. We just got to grab these cars. It's quick money. You guys will be on your way. You need the money. And I go, okay, let's do it. If I get there, I'm looking at you and I'm like, dude, come on.
First thing we're going to do is drive up in a Mad Max truck.
This is very, very complicated. And also, there's lots of people on the train, and all that has to happen is for anybody to basically look out the window.
Oh, yeah.
That's all that has to happen for anybody.
Yeah.
So, like you said, the very cool scene, very cool introduction to Dom for this. When they cut, because at this point, Mia, some guy that they're working with, who eventually becomes the villain of the movie, the guys that they're doing the job with, and Brian are on the boxcar. Because we should have mentioned...
They started on the train.
They started off on the train, and they're talking about places they can move to. I watched this movie 1.5 times. I stopped it, and then I went back and watched it again. I wanted to watch it again. And I'm glad I did, because there was some stuff that I missed. There are passengers on the train, and they're talking about, we could go to Tokyo, we could go here, we could go there. What are we going to do when we get this money?
Places without extradition.
Where are we going to live? And then they do something where they kind of a pickpocket thing, and they bump against the conductor or the usher, and they get the car. Long rambling story, folks, sorry. They're inside. When that thing that Leif explained, where they cut the thing and it blows up into the wind, and then sunlight floods into the boxcar, and out of the sunlight walks Vin Diesel.
Like an angel. Like an angel.
It's a cool... And they're like, Dom, and they give him a hug, and then, Vince is like, look who I bumped into. And the only reason we just spent 2 minutes talking about that is aesthetically and the cinematography.
Oh, yeah,
I thought it was a very cool introduction to the Dom character in this movie. So, already, though, and I'll let you take it from here, I have a note here, though, that says... I have a note way back that says 1 minute in, and I'm already so happy to be watching this. It was nice to be watching this.
Oh, yeah.
Catwoman or Top Gun. And now I have a note, fast forward, that says, I do want to see Mia back in this franchise.
Oh, yeah.
She's kind of got her own action element to it. Unfortunately, once she admits that she's got a bun in the oven, she's regulated to be back on base on the phone. But in the beginning of this, when she's breaking Dom off the prison bus, and she's helped stealing these cars, she's doing action stuff. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I would love to see her come back in this franchise. So these guys are very particular about one car. The guy is very particular, and this was confusing to me, and I'll let you get back to it, but I'm going to segue into it so you can answer my question. The one guy is like, I'm taking the V22 or whatever it was, I don't know cars. And instead of just being like, okay, dude, like they instantly are like, no, Mia takes that one.
Yeah.
She's like, you take this car. And she's like, this, and they're like, and at the first the guy's like, no, you can't have this one. And she's like, this one suits me better. And Dom's just like, oh, just let her take that car.
Yeah. There's like all this tension all of a sudden.
Yeah, there was all this tension all of a sudden. Like, why just that guy really wants to take the car? Why do you care what you're here for the job? This is what was confusing about me from the start. You're here just to pull this job where you get these cars. Why do you care why they want the cars? Why do you care that this guy wants this particular car? And all of a sudden, and I am going somewhere with this, folks. Once Dom realizes that they really want this car, why would you tell Mia, hey, take this car and steal it. I'll meet you someplace else. Why?
Because I think they already had like a sub plot.
You think they had a subplot to take the cars from the guys who were stealing the cars so they could sell the cars? Because otherwise, why is he just like, change of plans, we'll call you. And she just nods and she knows what change of plans means. Like,
well, that's the thing. Everyone already knows what's going on.
So,
and it's a good thing that she got that car because the last car...
Yeah, the last car is like a rocket ship car. We'll get to that. But I just don't understand why they changed they were pulling a job, and Dom is all about honor among criminals. I just don't understand why they were changing the job all of a sudden. Was it just because the guys were acting so weird?
He kept on saying the whole job was bad.
Okay, so he didn't trust something already, so he knew something was up.
Yeah. But we don't know other than just Dom tuition.
Well, you're right, because they don't even know that those are government cars until Brian looks at all the keys and he's like, what the heck? These are seized government cars.
Yeah.
What's going on here? So they already know something's up. So Vince goes first.
Yeah.
And he's wherever. He's
gone.
Yeah. And probably taking the car to where the car is supposed to go to. Mia gets the second car.
Because poor Vince wasn't in on the subplot.
No. He's not in on a lot in this movie, including most of the movie. Yeah. But we'll get to that. Mia gets the car that the one guy wants, and the one guy's like, just chill, we're all... He tells the other guy, just, hey, don't worry about it. But then we're all going to the same place. But they see she's not going to the same place.
Yeah, she drives off someplace else. And
so they freak out.
They're just like, oh, okay.
And then immediately it turns into some kind of a brawl.
Yeah, big brawl.
And they fight. And then Brian gets... He jumps off onto the weird Mad Max tow truck. Yeah. To try to stop that dude from doing whatever he's doing for some reason. Because they were going to, call
for reinforcements or
yes, they were going to call for reinforcements, or maybe possibly they were just going to turn around and chase after her anyway, because she had the car they wanted, so there was no need for... There would have been really no need. They could care less if the rest of the cars came off. They could have just drove off. So he has to stop them from chasing after
in their weird Mad Max.
So that makes sense. In the weird Mad Max car.
And then they get into the weird brawl in the car for control. Where the one guy just has the torch. He keeps on trying to burn Brian with the torch.
Yeah, it's another one of these. And if you've listened to the podcast before, you know that we kind of as much as we go into detail about this, we kind of skim over these action sequences because you have to see them.
There's just so much happening.
There's so much happening. They're always beautifully done. They're always multi-tiered, where there's 2 or 3 or even sometimes 4 points of action you're following with different sets of characters. Yeah. All just weaving in and out. And this is a perfect example of that, where you're seeing Mia escape, you're seeing Brian fight, you're seeing Dom have a fist fight. And then Dom gets in this car.
Well, not yet.
Well, the one important point, the one main bad guy's henchman kills 3 government agents.
That's the thing, though. That's sort of like... In the fight over the Mad Max car, or truck, that's when someone decides to look out the window finally and sees, chaos. Yes. And then the DEA agents are, rushing back to where the cars are.
And then they send the poor lackey, go get the card, the punch card or whatever. Yeah. They don't have the swipe card to get back there for whatever reason. And so, they bust in and...
The one guy, evil henchman...
Shoots him. He kills him.
Well, meanwhile, I think at this point, is the Mad Max car lodged into the side of the train?
Yeah, something has happened where the Mad Max tow truck is lodged into the side of the train, and there is a bridge coming that will then knock it loose.
Yeah, and Brian is
killing Brian, because Brian is dangling from it.
Yeah,
but is there also something happening where it's starting on fire?
Yeah, the gas can was linking, and it was exploded.
So Brian, even though boxcar hobos have done this for hundreds of years, doesn't want to just jump and roll, which in real life would be a terrifying thing, but you would probably survive it. And definitely in this Fast and Furious movie where people are jumping out of airplanes routinely. Oh, yeah. And he could have easily... They jump from bigger heights than this 20 times.
Well, they jump out of their cars going faster.
Yeah, they jump out of their cars going faster than this. So he's easily...
I can't walk barefoot without, hurting myself.
No.
These people...
Well, he's literally... And again, if you haven't seen it, but they're going at train pace.
Yeah.
And the train is already, I think, slowing down because they're sending someone to stop the train. But he's just kind of dangling.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to do.
3 or 4 feet off the ground. Mm-hmm. So Dom sees this, and he gets into a car that I can only explain is a Speed Racer's rocket car, because that's what it looks like.
And he does this perfect jump out of the boxcar.
He jumps out of the boxcar.
And then
starts trying to line up with... Catch pace with the train, because the train has the Mad Max tow truck attached to it. Brian's dangling off. And then, to finally get to our point, Brian just jumps off of it anyway onto a moving car and is fine.
Yeah.
So he could have just jumped off of, but maybe not. Maybe because the car is keeping pace. No, because the ground is stationary and the car is keeping pace. So maybe you are better off
that's
jumping off onto the moving car.
That's definitely better than jumping onto the ground.
But what doesn't make sense...
Well, then, you're thinking everything's great until they fly off the cliff.
Yeah, they just jump off a cliff and jump off the car.
Yeah.
And how high would you say the fall is from when they jump off the cliff to when they hit the water.
I mean, that looked like a... You're looking at like at least 100 feet, it looked like.
It was a long ways.
They were doing... I mean, it was like...
And
it was like Indiana Jones sliding down the mountain in the raft.
Brian is never in the car. He's like standing on the car.
Well, he was on the car.
He's surfing it. We see some more car surfing where he's holding on to like the windshield or the back seat, and he's like crouched down. We see him do this, and no, we don't see him do this. The last time we saw this was Vin Diesel doing it in Triple X.
Yes.
They pull a Triple X in this. I just realized that now, that they completely pull a Triple X. So he's like surfing on it. Vin Diesel is like, you know, he's driving it, and then he gets up and starts to do the surf thing, and then they just both jump off the car. Car crashes into the water. They went into the water, splash, splash, splash.
They pop back up.
They pop back up. They're
like,
fine.
This is a bad job.
Yeah, like, bad job, Brian.
And then like you hear guns.
Yeah, you hear the guns, and it's not the cops. It's the
cartel
guys. Because at this point, the reason that the cops aren't also there, like chasing them, because the train is immediately stopped, is because they're dead.
Yeah.
They killed the 3 cops that were on there. Okay, because I had wondered, I'm like, okay, but where's the cops? By this time, the train has to stop.
Yeah.
Doesn't take that long for a train to stop. Can I say one thing very quickly?
Yeah.
When I was looking up my fast facts for this episode later, which I have minimal of because I just enjoyed this movie, somebody calculated how long the runway would have to be at the end, because we talked about this.
Yes.
How long the runway would have to be at the end of Fast and Furious? 28 miles.
Okay.
Would have to be a 28-mile runway for everything to happen.
Perfectly reasonable runway. But,
so they're caught by the cartel. And we see, and I hope this isn't offensive, but I couldn't get it out of my head the whole time. We see a man that looks very much to me like a South American version of Phil Hartman. This guy reminded me so much of Phil Hartman.
He did.
That it was just unreal. This guy looks and sounds exactly like
Phil Hartman-ish.
And I even think that Phil Hartman played a character in the slightly less sensitive 80s Saturday Night Live, where he played a Mexican gentleman. And this was spot on. This was Phil Hartman. So the whole time I'm watching it.
So you had the extra pleasure of also watching it with Phil Hartman.
Of watching it with the late, great Phil Hartman. They're caught.
Yes.
And they've made the job go bad.
Yeah,
and this guy's rightfully mad. He hired these thugs to steal cars, and all of a sudden...
Yeah, and then, they're typical. It's bad criminal there. They're hanging by their hands.
Yeah, they're hanging by the chains.
And all this other stuff. And then
this is post-Triple X.
And they're going to get taught a lesson.
Yeah, they're going to get taught a lesson. Well, they want to know where that car is.
Yeah. They're not talking.
They're not going to talk because they're smart enough to know that once they say where the car is, they're dead. So he does the thing where he threatens Mia. Mm-hmm. I hear your sister's very beautiful. Oh, they start grunting and start shaking the chains and stuff like that. And they're having the, where I'm from, this is not how business is done. And this guy has a point because they're all criminals.
Yeah.
So none of these guys are, in their world, good guys. So, evil Phil Hartman has every reason to be like, hey, where's the car? I need to steal cars.
You had one job here.
You had one job here. This is not cool. What's going on? I don't remember what their answer for it is. Something about, well, the job was bad from the beginning. We didn't know what we were getting into. Well, that's Vince's fault. That's not evil Phil Hartman's fault. Do you remember what their reasoning was for why they stole the car from the guy they were supposed to be stealing the car from? They don't really say anything.
It's all vague, other than it just was a bad feeling.
Mama's word. I did not, until my second viewing of this, and like I said, I watched it once, and I went back and I got halfway through it before I fell asleep. Did not understand what the deal with why they wanted the car. And I remember there was a microchip on the car.
Oh yeah, they find... Afterwards, after they escape.
Yes.
Well, okay. Getting ahead of ourselves.
They escape.
After they escape because,
easily.
Dom, hulks out and breaks the chains.
Yeah, they easily escape.
He, busts the Samson move, and just then they beat everyone up and escape.
And they go back to the hideout where Mia's waiting.
Uh-huh. And then that's when he's like, well, we gotta find out why they wanted this.
Well, Mia hears a noise, and she picks up a wrench.
Yeah.
A huge monkey wrench. And then, she sees it's Dom, and she lunges at him, and then he comes out of the shadows. She's like, oh, it's us.
He's like, it's a Toretto.
Yes. I like Mia in these movies.
Yeah.
I really do enjoy her. Man, I hope she comes back in these movies. But he's like, just like a true Toretto. And she's like, where's Vince? And he's like, oh, Vince hasn't come back yet.
No one knows her.
And so they're trying to cast a shadow on Vince. The movie is trying to make you think...
Vince is bad.
Yeah, maybe Vince is bad, maybe Vince is good, maybe we don't know. And they realize that, we know one thing for sure, that they wanted this car. That it was nothing about stealing cars to sell them. They wanted this particular car.
So they want to know why.
There's a reason why.
They're like, okay, well, let's take the entire car apart.
Yeah, they're going to take the car apart. And we find out later it's because we'll get to that. They at this point, even when they do take the car apart, they still don't know what was so special. They know that there's the chip. They don't know there's the chip.
Well, they take the car apart. That's how they find the chip.
No, my friend.
Wait a minute.
I'm not going to spoil it. I'm not going to spoil this movie that you saw yesterday for you. We'll get there. This is why I have to watch these movies twice. Because the first time I'm watching it, and sometimes, I had a hard time taking notes for this one because I was just enjoying the movie. I just wanted to watch the movie. So then we cut to the introduction, and what is the introduction of the great character, Hobbs.
Oh, yeah.
Can I say this real quick about Hobbs and about Dwayne Johnson? Even from this to what we've seen in this, whatever it's been, 5-6 years, 4 movies, 4 Fast and Furious movies anyway, Dwayne Johnson has already improved leaps and bounds as an actor. He's still a little clunky and a little awkward in his line delivery.
Yeah, he's very...
He's still The Rock.
Oh, yeah.
I think the difference between this and him in movies now, he's Dwayne Johnson, and he's still The Rock. But in this, he's very much still his wrestling character.
Yeah,
of the
like
Rock.
super...
Yeah, it's just one-liney and growly and big grins and stuff like that. He's still extremely likable in this movie. I can see when people... This was, I think, the first turn where people... One of the first ones where people are like, oh, The Rock. Mm-hmm. Okay. So he comes out and he says, this is who we're chasing. He pulls the Tommy Lee Jones fugitive walk and talk that's been done in every one of these movies since The Fugitive. We'll check every doghouse, hen house, outhouse. These is who we're looking for. This is what they're good at. And then the one little thing that he says, he's like, on the top of everything, we don't ever let them get into cars.
Yeah.
Which they continue to let them get in cars the entire movie. But he needs 2 things. Now, Leif, do you remember what the 2 things that he needs are? One of them we can't say on this podcast.
Well, he needs a translator.
He needs a translator.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want any translator. He has a specific translator that he wants.
Yeah, and it's the one... Well, she ends up being the main woman.
Yeah, Elena.
Yeah, there we go.
Who, as you're seeing... Now, this is the last time we'll see Elena.
Pretty much, yeah.
In the backwards way we're watching this, because this is her introduction, and we know that of what happens in the 8th one.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing her in this movie, do you see how gypped that this character was? Because she's in 6, she's in 7, she's in 8. She's been in 4 of these things.
Yeah.
Do you see what I was talking about how poorly her character... I mean, I know you saw just from being an intelligent moviegoer that her character was handled poorly maybe in the 7th and 8th one when she's regulated to a babysitter in the 7th one and a victim in the 8th one. The 6th one we just watched, she still has a pretty decent part in, but she's just kicked to the curb once Letty's back.
Oh, yeah.
But she's a force in this one. I mean, she's not a huge main character, but she's...
Well, there's a lot of build-up for something, and the problem is all the other movies don't actually...
No, because they decided to bring Michelle Rodriguez back.
Yeah.
Not for whatever reason. I think they had good reason. I like Michelle Rodriguez, and I like the Letty character. But yeah, I never thought about that. You're absolutely right. They were building her character up to be Dom's new love interest, female lead of this franchise, and it didn't go that way. And it was like, well, she's the Rock's partner. Well, no, we're not gonna have the Rock have a partner because now the Rock's a bad guy. So She was a character left with nowhere to go.
Oh yeah,
Did you like her in this movie though?
Yeah, I mean for the most part. That's the thing. Like all the development was caught around, like, trapped for me because it's like, okay, well...
Because you know what's going to happen to her.
She's basically just going to be...
get gypped.
Killed in a weird little glass room in an airplane.
It's true. Her character, I feel so bad for that actress and for her character.
Yeah.
She's in 4 of these things.
Because,
I can't even tell you people, like, it blows my mind.
Because, like, and that's the thing.
Why keep bringing her back then, just to be the babysitter?
Her entire role is to basically just be like, I did it.
Yeah, her entire role.
She gets it. She's like, oh, yeah, well, Letty's back. I did it.
Yeah. And it's we talked about that.
Oh, I was quiet about this kid because I did it.
Yeah, and it's ironic. It's ironic that I just praised this franchise for bringing back and finding inventive ways to bring back characters to have connective tissue, which I do enjoy. But in this sense, I have to detract from it because it was very much like, we like to bring back familiar faces.
Yeah.
Let's bring back Elena. Okay, she's The Rock's partner now. We can make that work. Okay, well, now they're hiding out. Okay,
yeah. She's
the mother
dead.
of Dom's. Yeah, she's dead now. She's dead. She's the mother of Dom's child.
It was great while it lasted.
Yeah, it was great while it lasted. We won't get into what we got into the past 3 movies where it's like, how does her pregnancy timeline work? Because it doesn't.
Oh, no, there's no...
It just doesn't.
There's no rhyme or reason in any of this stuff.
So they don't know where Vince is, but Vince shows back up.
Mm-hmm.
They have a little bit of a confrontation. Where were you, dude? You see a little bit more of that animosity between Vince and Brian, which the one thing I think that this movie lacked when it was over is I wish there would have been a scene between Vince and Brian where they have kind of an understanding.
Yeah.
Like, because something happens to Vince. I like those. I wanted that in 8 too. I tend to I look more for, like, character. I'm foolishly still looking for, like, because remember in 8, I was disappointed that The Rock and Vin Diesel didn't have a talk about the death of Elena.
Yeah.
Being that was a very important person in both of their lives. The Rock's life. Career-wise, and Vin Diesel's life, personally, and they never went to each other and were like, Elena died. This person that we've mutually known. And I wanted to see, I'm always looking for those moments, because I expect to have those character moments in these movies, because here's the thing about these Fast and Furious movies, and I'm being honest about this. If they never did that, I'd be like, of course I don't expect that. It's a Fast and Furious movie. But sometimes they do give you those moments.
Yeah. So
I do expect more, I guess, maybe more than I should. I would have liked to, spoiler alert, Vince gets killed. But we'll get to it. But I would have liked a moment on his death scene for him to be like, Buster. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I guess then again, it's just 2 guys who don't kind of like each other. They're not friends. So maybe you're right. They don't need that moment.
They're just going to be...
Yeah, it's
whatever.
Like, hey, we never really liked each other. You were a guy I knew for a couple weeks 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And for 4 or 5 days now. Okay.
Yeah.
That stinks. But he comes back. They have their, chest pumping. And...
Yeah. If the Wendy's guy dies, and by that I mean the guy who gets me the Wendy's that I order, I'll be upset. But it's like, I don't need closure.
What if he listens to this podcast? And then when you go order your Wendy's 2 days from now, he says, hey. So he comes back, and Dom's like, enough, guys. We're a team here.
Yeah.
And we forgot that there was a little scene where we see more of evil Phil Hartman, where he is telling this kind of cool little story about how he operates, where he's talking to these other 2 faceless businessmen about how, when this country came over to conquer...
Yeah. And he's all like, you don't be evil by being mean. You be evil by being nice to everybody. Yeah.
You give somebody something to lose, and then you threaten to take it away, and then you own them. Yeah. It was kind of a good scene. He gives a little history lesson about, what was it? The Spanish came over,
all of those,
and they tried to conquer with weapons, but they were pushed back. The Portuguese came over with gifts, and they were able to interject their culture. And that's how they took over from a cultural standpoint. So now we see it's late at night and Vince is rummaging around.
Yeah, because he has the chip.
He gets the chip.
Well, so he
takes the chip out of the back of the thing. Vince knew the job was for the chip the whole time. And then Dom comes on, he's like, I almost wish I didn't see it. Almost. So yeah, they don't know there's a chip.
Okay.
That's how they find out there's a chip. He's like, my sister was on that train. And it's like, but so you have a problem with the fact that your sister was on the train when it was to get this chip, but you're perfectly fine with your sister just boosting cars and being an outlaw and a criminal on the run and flipping over prison buses all the rest of the time? Was he just mad that Vince wasn't completely upfront about what the job was?
I guess.
But Vince was completely upfront about what the
Well,
job was. It was just to get the car. If
Yeah,
they
but
would have just stuck with the
maybe
plan and got the car.
Maybe Dom demands the entire explanation of the job. Why do we need to steal? Maybe that's it. It's this existential angst for him.
I would highly, highly, highly doubt that, but maybe. I just don't understand why he was so like... Vince told you what the job was. The job was to get the cars. If you would have just got the cars, you would have lived, because obviously Vince went wherever he was supposed to go. They didn't kill him. So you would have been fine. You would have just delivered the cars where you went. You would have got your money.
Because it was an ulterior motive for the car. Maybe it wasn't just pure car stealing.
Maybe.
And it's like, I don't like stealing cars for...
Yeah, I just like to steal cars, not to steal microchips.
Yeah.
All right, so whatever. Whatever. we can't talk.
We're not going to get bogged down in
we can't.
Ethos of stealing.
Yeah. Folks, I know you've listened to this podcast before, that you know what you're in for, but we are an hour into this already and about 20 minutes into the movie and halfway through the first page of 6 notes. So we gotta
move.
We gotta try to move along a little bit. So he kicks Vince out.
Yeah.
And Vince has a great little scene. I like Vince. Vince is like, you didn't trust me, because you'll see this when we watch the first one.
And that's why I feel bad of this whole thing. It's like Vince is like the D student of this group. It's like
Vince, the whole entire first movie is warning Dom that he is pretty sure that Paul Walker is a cop. Mm-hmm. And nobody is listening. And everyone is just like, Vince, stop being a jerk. And Vince is just made out to be a jerk. Vince is right the entire time. And so Vince is like...
Is he the Iceman?
Vince is the Iceman, yes, of this Fast and Furious crew. And he says, look at us now. He's like, you didn't listen to me when I said this guy was a cop. We can't go home. Look at our family. And then he takes a low blow. He's like, where's Letty, Dom? Where's Letty? And it's like, yeah, Paul Walker has pretty much shot their whole life and family to crap since he's interjected himself into their world. But they kick Vince out. And Vince is like, ugh, and he leaves in a huff. And we cut back to Elena and Hobbs, and they are at this is the introduction, the actual introduction of Elena, because she shows up at the train crime scene, and she has the question that everybody would have, why me? I've been a beat cop for about a month. Why, out of all these other people that you could have, why did you pick me? When he told the guy, oh, I completely interrupted you, as I have a tendency to do. The two things were, he wanted the translator.
Yeah.
Because she has a nice smile. And then the second thing, stay the F out of my way.
Yes.
So she says, my smile's not that great. Why did you want me? And why do we find out, why does he want her to be his partner?
Because The Rock has single-handedly gone over every single police officer's record in Rio and found out that she is the one non-corrupt person.
And she's not corrupt because she's motivated, and she's motivated because...
Her husband was killed.
Her husband was a cop who was killed.
Yeah.
And then because of that, she became a cop.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, yes, she confirms, yes, every other cop in Rio besides me is dirty. And you can trust me because I became a cop to get revenge on dirty cops, because my husband was killed, because he was also a good cop.
Yeah.
He was the other only good cop in Rio. I've had to take up his mantle as the only non-corrupt police officer, official, or businessman, or politician in Rio.
Because in big corruption schemes, they allow the one person to always go after them.
Well, when I was reading about this, I guess there was a lot of blowback from Rio, that they were upset about the portrayal of just the corruption, and they thought that the rest of the world was going to have the wrong idea. So
and then the Olympics happened, and the rest of the world did have that idea.
They get some exposition from cop guy who's on The Rock's team that I have the good news is that we have these... that it rained in the desert, and that now we can see the
we have the tracks.
But we got to this other part where there's no tracks.
So I guess it doesn't help at all.
And then, like, Elena's like, oh, but... And she knows, apparently, that because... that's only one section, but that section gives a mud on your tires. And when you get out of that section, wherever they got out from that section, you're going to pick the trail back up. So this leads them all back to their hangout. They're chilling at the hangout, and they're talking. And they hear a noise, and it's the Rock's team. And is there a little throwback to the Rock going up the steps?
No. You missed it. Because in the meantime, evil Phil Hartman is notified that they found where they are.
Yeah.
And the drug guys get there first.
The drug guys get there... Oh, yeah, the drug guys get there first. How did the drug guys find them? Same way? That's what I was wondering about. So the drug guys get there first.
Maybe because of a mole in the police station.
Oh, yeah, maybe. Yeah, but like, they're coming up the back way. Yeah. Almost at the same time as the Rock's coming up the front way. Because there's a little throwback with all the people with the guns on the stairway.
Yeah, because...
And they take out their guns, and the Rock takes out his guns, and then they put their guns away, and the Rock's like, yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
Here's gunfire.
Yeah.
There's a lot of instances in the Fast and Furious franchise where the action sequences become a little confusing because there is multiple occasions where bad guys and good guys are showing up to medium guys at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
And you're trying to figure out who's who and why they're there and
so
why they're there.
The whole scene then was them running away from everybody because everybody was killing everybody.
Yes, and I let you take the action sequences. And you want to describe a little bit of what happens with this rooftop chase?
Yeah, so they get out of there just in time because they heard a noise. The drug guys jump in there and shoot, and nothing happens.
Yeah.
And then they're hopping from rooftop to rooftop.
Which is pretty cool.
Well, yeah.
There's an awesome scene where, like, Vin Diesel jumps off a roof, and he thinks he's lost Hobbs.
Yeah.
And then halfway through the air, as he's, like, doing his, like, whoa, and he's about to land on another roof, and his legs are, like, moving, and his arms are, like, flapping in the air. He hears a crash, and it's just Hobbs has jumped out of a window.
Yeah.
After him. That's pretty cool. So they're, like...
Yeah, they're just jumping, and this, you get to tour, like, the...
Yeah, it's a cool rooftop chase.
Bad areas of Rio.
Yeah, it's a cool rooftop chase, and there's a little interaction, though, between...
There's... Dom saves Elena.
Yeah, she's going to get caught in crossfire.
Yeah.
She's told to stay there.
And because Dom, first of all, she catches Dom.
Yes.
But then, fortunately, all sorts of people are about to kill him. So he hides and then, like, seduces her.
Yeah, because, he saves her life.
Yeah.
And he pushes her up against the wall, and he's got his hand over her mouth. And at this point, he loses his necklace, I think.
Yeah, the necklace goes away.
And what does he say other than, like, what does he say that all of a sudden he plants a seed in her head that maybe they're not a bad guy.
Yeah, well, I think because he saved her, that's the seed. But he also says, like, they haven't seen you yet or something, like...
Okay.
Like, the drug dealers, or they don't know who she is, so, like, maybe they won't, like, kill her.
Yeah, follow her to her house and kill her 2 days later. Okay, so then he escapes. She doesn't, I wouldn't say let him go, but she kind of lets him go.
Yeah.
And then Hobbs' men show up and blast all the dudes who were firing at them, kills all those guys, and they're all kind of able to get away.
Meanwhile, though, Brian and Mia were also jumping and being chased. Yeah. And they finally do the giant jump into, like, a tin roof.
Yeah, into whatever is inside that would be certain death. Because God only hopes that there's not bunches of shards of metal.
Especially, when you're pregnant, the best thing to do is to jump.
Yeah, they jump in through this shanty roof that immediately collapses under them. And that alone, I think, would kill you.
Well, you would be in rough shape.
You'd be in rough shape. Not to mention, like I said, whatever's inside that building.
Yeah.
And by the way, go back and look at it. This roof, no one in their right mind is going to think this roof is going to hold up because it's literally just a bunch of pieces of tin piled up on top of each other.
Yeah.
All different colors. You know that's not a solid roof.
Oh, the whole thing is like Jenga together.
Yeah, the whole thing is like a Jenga game. So they get away. And they're caught up with Dom. Mm-hmm. Okay. And Dom says, we got to split up. Because what we have forgotten to mention is that Mia at some point has seen on the news that they are being blamed
for the killing
of
the DA
the
guys.
DEAs, which, to tie it all together, is why they've sent the Rock in.
Yeah.
They haven't sent the Rock in to chase after them because they escaped from the prison bus in the beginning. They've sent the Rock in because he's a specialist now, because now they've escaped, and now they're wanted for killing some of his men.
Yeah, and
That's why
is
the Rock
all
is
like...
there. And he's the guy, as Brian confirms later when they find out who's after them, in another Fast and Furious trope, right about the time that they discover the identity of who's after them.
Yeah.
And he goes, oh, that's... Basically, there's a little scene where Brian is like, oh, that's the Rock. This is serious. If they're sending Hobbs in, I think he kind of knows who Hobbs is, or at least he knows who a man in Hobbs' position is and what he's capable of.
And the Rock makes no bones about, you're all names on a list. Yeah. I checked off those names.
Yeah, your names that came across a desk.
Yeah.
That's all it is. And he tells later on in the movie, when she starts to question, these are kind of Robin Hood-esque figures who've never done more than illegally street face. Why are they killing? And he's like, what is he? He says something great about, like, not an hour more or a bullet less.
Yeah.
We don't give it another thought. Not a thought more or a bullet less. We bring them down, their names on a desk.
Yeah.
And he says that later in the cool confrontation, and we'll get to it, when he's like, part of my language, he's like, you're just two assholes who came across my desk. I don't care what you have to say. So he is pretty great at this.
That's all like matter of fact, no nonsense.
Yeah, it's just, he's doing his job.
Yeah.
He's doing his job. So they're going to split up. And they can't split up. And Leif, why can't they split up? Because what knowledge is dropped at this time?
It is, Mia is with child. And,
yeah. This is when she decides...
all of a sudden, family.
This is when she decides to tell Brian.
Yeah.
And he's not upset at all. He is, I don't have kids. All right. I've never had, I'm not married. I've never, I don't have kids. So I'm sure it's an exciting thing you do when your wife comes to you and says, we're going to have a baby. Yeah. And this is great. I don't know how happy you would be, though, to find out about it when your fugitive is on the run and you've just run through a shanty town and been shot at, and now you're... But this is the greatest thing in the world. They're happy.
I would be concerned of the logistics, at least.
I would be concerned of the logistics. I would be concerned of the life that we're outlaws on the run. For murdering DEA agents, even though we're innocent. We're already on the run because we bust a guy out of a prison bus. We have no money. We don't have a house to live in.
And we've tipped off the most powerful
cartel in the world.
Yeah.
But they don't care, man. This is a happy moment. And then Dom finds out for the first time here, too.
Yeah.
And he goes, the family just got bigger.
Ah.
He loves it. They're happy.
Yeah.
They're acting like they just invited Dom over for dinner and a barbecue, and on the patio they're telling this news.
Well, yeah. Well, and that's what ends up later on, is when they are sitting on like a patio, not a patio, but like a balcony. First of all, you're like the most wanted people in the universe, and you're just sitting on a balcony having a moment in a town.
Yeah, they're just singing on a balcony.
And they're talking, and that's where it's like, Brian's like, tell me about your dad.
Yeah. Well, I have a note here that says, yay, we're bringing a child into this terrible life of crime that we're living. So they can't split up.
No.
She says, I've already lost one family.
Yeah.
I'm not losing another one. Did you take it as, before that news was dropped, that they were going to go 3 separate ways, or that Brian and Mia were going to go one way and Dom was going to go another? I almost took it as they were going to go 3 separate ways.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be 2. For some reason, I thought it was going to be for drama.
Okay.
It was going to be like Brian and Dom were going to do something. But that was just me.
And because, like these movies tend to do, they have to write Mia off for great chunks of it. Yeah. Like, go.
You go
hide over there.
Hang out with the woman folk.
Like, hide over there. We're going to be doing action stunts, and then we'll see you at the end at the barbecue. Will you talk to me at all? Yeah, we'll have a few scenes where we talk to you on the phone. Don't worry.
Don't worry.
Go sit in this phone set.
You have to take this a very important job.
Yeah, so Hobbs, meanwhile, they're gone. Hobbs is back at the hideout with his crew, and he sees that they've taken this car apart. Mm-hmm. He knows there's only one reason why they would have taken this car apart. They were looking for something.
Yep.
And if we put the car back together, we will find whatever the missing piece is. That must have been what they were looking for. None of which makes any sense. And luckily, the 2 army guys that he has under his control can put together super exotic foreign cars from scratch. Just
with like there's no like Chilton manual.
No, there's no kind of manual, no kind of anything. They're just able to completely assemble this car. So
and I feel bad for them because it's like your job now is to just put a car together, and
hope that a piece is missing, and hope that because like this one piece is missing, that is the key to everything. Why would it be?
Also, if we
did this big job for this brake pad, we got it now.
What if someone just stole the car and was? What if it was like in the trunk?
Yeah. Yeah, what if it was in the trunk? That was what I'm thinking. Like, I guess they wouldn't take the car apart if it was in the trunk. But these guys also like to mess with cars, so what if they were just taking the car? Who knows? But anyway, so we get to your scene where they're on the balcony.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
One thing that anyone who listens to this knows is one of my favorite parts of these movies, and the seed was planted for this to be my favorite part in an incredible sequence that we'll talk about in 2 movies. With Han talking about what life is in a very similar balcony scene in Tokyo Drift. We get a little bit of fast philosophy. Mm-hmm. There's not as much fast philosophy. I had a hard time picking my favorite line in this. There's not a lot. On the Rock's part, there's a ton of cheesy one-liners.
Oh, yeah.
There's not a lot of fast philosophy in this. There's talk of family.
Well, yeah, it's all about, like, he's talking about like being a good dad.
Yeah, but there's not. I didn't latch on to one of those great Vin Diesel one-liners like you say an open road it takes you where you're going or where you've been. Or
oh no, there was nothing like that.
What was the one that we loved so much at the end of 6, where he's like words like freedom went out the door the day expedition or whatever. I can never say that word. What is it? Words like immunity, and went out the door the day we were born, and everyone's like, "What?" There was not much of that here.
Oh no, this was just like
because this was just a good movie. So they're talking about fathers. He's like, "What do you remember about your dad?" He's like, "I remember everything about my dad. I remember he was in the shop every day, and every night he was at the kitchen table with Mia doing her homework, and he would stay up 2 hours late to teach himself the next lesson so he could help Mia with her homework." The next night. He's like, "Oh, my dad was a great man." You don't know what happened to their dad.
No.
You'll find out. So, my dad was a great man. And Brian's like, "I don't remember anything about my dad."
Yeah. I don't, voice, look, blah, blah, blah. Mm-hmm. He was never there.
He was never around. So.
And then it all ends with like, "You'll be a great dad."
Yeah, you'll be a great dad. We just have to do one last job.
Yeah.
We have to get out of this life. We can't do this anymore. You're going to be a father. You're the father to my nephew, it turns out. I don't know if they know that at this point. You're my sister's husband. Are they married? I don't even know if they're married.
I don't know.
But I can't let you.
Yeah.
You know, it was fine. It was fine when you were taking my starving sister all over the country, globe-trotting and boosting cars and getting shot at by drug cartels.
But now this is real.
But now we got a kid on the way.
Yeah.
We gotta buckle down. Mm-hmm. Which remind me, because I want to talk a little bit more about 8 when we get to the end of this. Okay. They decide they're going to do one last job, and they have the chip now, and they know this chip is valuable.
Yeah, and they figured out that it was like a list of.
Yeah, they did.
Where the people sold the drugs.
Thank you, because for the life of me, I couldn't figure out what the big deal about this chip was.
Yeah.
So it was like their whole routing.
They found out exactly where all the money was.
Do they know that at this point? Has that scene passed?
They knew that.
Okay. Because I was like, the whole time I'm like, okay, they wanted the chip.
Yeah, I think that
what
happened
is the big deal about this chip?
That happened right after the, Vince is evil.
Okay. All right, so yeah, you're right. They find out it's a list of their buyers and when they have their transactions and when for some reason this is on a chip in a supercar that got confiscated at some point. So that's fine. That's fine. That's the MacGuffin. I was wondering what the MacGuffin was in it. There it is. So they want to do one last job. The classic one last job.
Yeah, so they can get their billions and then live in an extradition-free world.
Because they know how much money they could get at this point. They don't just want to give the guy the chip for money.
No, I think they
burned that bridge. Even though they could have went to him and said...
Yeah, no, they're ticked off at this guy, so they want to get
Yeah, they're ticked
They
want
to do like the revenge.
They want to get some revenge stuff. They can't just go sell him to Chip because maybe they're already enough on his bad side to where they would just get killed if they. Yeah, they can't go and say, "Oh, hey, we didn't know what this chip was. We thought it was for the cars. Yeah, we'll get $5 million. We'll give you this chip. Deal." The time for deals is done on both parties. They've killed plenty of his guys. Yeah, the whole roof jumping scene pretty much, I think, put the end of. So now to one of my favorite parts of any heist movie or any of these movies. You're assembling the crew. We're putting the team together. Mm-hmm. He's like, we're going to need a team together. And music starts playing, and immediately I got a big smile on my face. I don't know what your reaction to this was. They both smile. And he says, what are we going to need? And I think he starts, the way it's filmed, I think he starts saying what they're going to need, and it's a point of view shot on him talking, and then it kind of transitions into voiceover of the team. And he says, we need a chameleon. Mm-hmm. Who's the chameleon? Yeah, Han. It's Han. Yeah. A guy who can fit in anywhere that no one is going to notice. Now, is that because, and I'm not even trying to make a joke about this, is it because he's Asian? Is Asian a certain ethnicity where if you could be in Las Vegas, you could be in Rio, you could be in Nashville, Tennessee, you could be in New York, you could be in Moscow? Is there just, and I'm not even trying to be funny about this was just very interesting to me that they brought up this point. Is that an ethnicity where you can pretty much be anywhere and no one's going to be like, I'm not paying attention, whatever? I started to think that, like, why are they picking out him? But then I started to watch him after that, and it is more like he's just sort of unassuming. Okay. Like, if you just saw, him sitting around, like when later on when he goes to get the fingerprints of the guy. Yeah. Which, anyway. Yeah. When he's just sitting around, it's just like, I wouldn't notice him. So you didn't take it as a cultural thing or an ethnicity thing. You just took it as partially that he's just unassuming. Yeah. It was just an interesting point. No. I initially went down the same rabbit hole there, but I don't think it. Because I started thinking there's places where. I don't think it is supposed to. Okay, so he's the chameleon. We need a talker. Mm-hmm. Now we know who the talker is. Oh yeah. Roman. Yeah, Roman. Roman. We need a circuit guy. Mm-hmm. Tej. Yep. Best electronics guy ever. We need some muscle. Which the muscle, I can't think of their names right now. We'll get to them. I have them much later in notes. I enjoyed them, and I was going to ask you if you enjoyed them. We'll get to them. And then we need a weapons expert, which turns out to be Giselle? Yeah. It is Giselle, right? Mm-hmm. That's the character's name? We talked about it at a never-ending last episode. Yeah, because she, her scene is basically her, driving on a motorcycle, which means she's crazy. Yeah, Gal Gadot. And I think they try to get a little bit of a switcheroo to where, the beginning of it is, it's a very, very, very bird's eye view of someone on a motorcycle. It's just some dude on a motorcycle. You think it's a guy on a motorcycle. Yeah. And do you know what this reminded me of? Folks, every now and then, it fills me with joy to bring up the show Sequest DSV on this podcast. Remember at the beginning, the first episode of Season 2, you see somebody driving, completely dressed in black leather, black helmet, black motorcycle, weaving in and out of cars to get to the Sequest. It pulls up to the Sequest, and you think, oh, this is Lucas reporting for duty on the Sequest. Mm-hmm. Pulls the helmet off. It's Bridger. Oh, yeah. So they pull the Bridger on this. Yeah. And they need two amazing drivers. And they go, where are we going to get two amazing drivers from? And by that point, you've cut to the point of view of them back on the balcony, and they're like, it's us. We got it. So they all show up, and now the interesting thing about this for you, whether you realize it or not, this is interesting to you, whether you know it is or not, Leif. You find this interesting. You're going to love this. This is the first time that all these characters are brought together. Mm-hmm. They're not all in 4. Okay. So somebody had a very interesting idea, and I would guess it was probably Vin Diesel, who, as a producer, who said, you know what, let's pick because this is the 5th one of these things. And some of these hadn't been in a movie in 8 years, some of them hadn't been in a movie in 5 years. Let's pick these characters and almost form the Avengers of these Fast and Furious characters. Like, you know what, we really liked Roman. Let's take Roman from the second one. Let's take Han from Tokyo Drift.
Mm-hmm.
We liked Gal Gadot from the fourth one. Let's bring her back. I don't know. I mean, I don't have a real strong point with that, other than it's just kind of cool from a filmmaking and a production standpoint. It was a great idea.
Vince.
And then there's Vince from the first one. So it was, and then the two...
Looking in from a rainy outside into the window.
The two guys that I wish I could remember their names, and we'll get to it, they are also from the fourth one. So all of these characters, of them assembling this team, I can't emphasize enough how clever I thought it was to make it characters from other movies, to where if you're sitting in the theater and you've watched these movies, you're like, no way, they brought Tej back!
Yeah.
And, instead of just making all new characters, which they could have easily done. These movies, every movie could easily, if they didn't have actors who were committed to the franchise as they are, just have we got Vin Diesel and here's the new group, here's his new crew of people. But they don't. They kind of interject them throughout. So Roman is, of course, when he hears what the job is, he's already being Roman. Did you like Roman in this? We always talk about Roman and our level of either annoyance or appreciation of Roman. Did it fall more towards appreciation or annoyance?
It's fun because he was less of a caricature in this one. It just was like...
I still think he's at his best in 6.
Yeah, I didn't give you that. But
he's hit his stride.
So I did love the fact that it's he gets there and they tell him the plan and he's just this is stupid.
Yeah, I'm out. He's like, I'm out.
And then they're immediately like, it's $100 million. And then he's like,
Sometimes I speak too fast without thinking or something like that.
Yeah. And then too, even in the action scenes later on when he's driving the car and stuff like that, it is it's him doing his thing. It's more okay, well, this is not just a kooky guy.
Yeah. So what is the job? They somehow figure out that he's got money in
he has all of this...
8 different houses.
Yeah, and they're gonna steal all the money.
They're gonna try to hit it all at once.
Yeah.
That's what we... And again, this movie is clever. That's what we're told.
Yeah.
And that's what the movie tells us.
And then everyone in the movie is at the same conclusion that you're thinking, oh, this is insane.
Yeah.
And then you find out, well, no, that's not what's going to happen.
That's not what's going to happen at all. So they go, but they make you think it is. And the movie makes you think it is all the way up to the first job.
Yeah.
Because they bust into cooking, wherever you cook up drugs or weigh them or whatever.
There's tons of money, and it's I loved how all the men were fully clothed, and all of these women workers were in their underwear.
Yeah, which is a thing, but why are all the men fully clothed?
Yeah.
And I think that it legitimately is a thing where in these situations they make people work in their underwear because of theft.
Oh yeah, makes sense.
I mean, I think that's a legitimate thing that happens, unfortunately, in the real world. So there's no pockets.
No.
But in that scenario, the men would also just be in their boxers. So I agree. It's kind of weird that the women are in their underwear.
I accepted it as just this weird thing. I wasn't oh man, this is eye candy scene.
No, yeah, because it wasn't. No, because for what it's worth, and it's not worth anything. This is not a butt shaking Fast and Furious usual montage.
That comes later.
Yeah. Did it?
Yeah, when they have to hit the cars.
Yes. Okay, I was just about to say, was there one of these?
Yeah.
There was one, and there was one where some of it was just are these people wearing underwear?
It doesn't matter. It's Rio, man.
It's Rio. So they're there, and you think, okay, they're here to steal the drug money.
Yeah.
They're not. What are they doing?
So they pile all the money up. They have all the guys and girls from the crew.
Yeah.
Tied up there.
Yeah.
And then they burn the money.
Yeah.
And the whole time the guy's this is crazy, they're gonna kill you, blah, blah, blah. And then they all unmask.
Yeah, they said, you can't hide anywhere. And they take their masks off and they say, who's hiding?
Yeah.
Now let me ask you this, because this dawns on me just this second. What was the benefit or the point to them letting their identity being known, going forward to what you know now about the rest of the movie? I can't think of one. What was the point of them?
Aside from the fact that this is serious business, now you know who we are, so we can't go back. We're so
confident.
Yeah, that
because there's nothing that helps their plan by them knowing who they are.
No, I think that's
your anonymity would almost help you.
Yeah, but
with that plan.
If you know you're anonymous, maybe you wouldn't. You could be well, this is just some kooks. I don't know. But
So it's their way of committing.
In terms of message sending, you'd be like,
Yeah,
I don't
that's
care.
true.
I don't care if you know my name. I'm gonna do this.
So they burn the money and reveal themselves, and you're thinking, why are they burning the money? And it's actually a brilliant plan.
Yeah, so it forces them to consolidate all their money.
Yes. To a place that they unfortunately didn't expect, but we'll get to that.
Which you'd think, though, if you have a guy who's basically like bent on burning all of your money, you think you'd divvy it up more than just put it all in one big place.
Yeah, you would think if you ever saw a movie before, even though that one snuck up on me a little bit, did you know that's what they were doing? Were you like, oh yeah, they're burning one thing?
No, I did not know that. No.
I think that if you paused it right there and gave me and you 5 minutes to think about what the plan was, we would probably come to that conclusion pretty quick. But as you're watching it, you're like, oh! So they're building the car back at base, and they've got the car built.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing's missing, boss.
Yeah.
And he goes and
he immediately knows what's wrong.
Well, he goes to the dashboard, and there's like a CD player there, or like a GPS or whatever, and he's like, oh, why would you put he says something like...
Why do you put this stuff in a car
he has some kind of pun about something. And then he opens it, and I have a quote, so, ... the most obvious thing was missing. Yeah, that microchip that fits in the back of that thing that you would have saw.
Well, what's amazing, too, is like... He hits like play on it, and the screen shows up, and it's like, error.
Yeah.
So, like, it's like...
Everything works perfectly. We've tested everything. Play. Missing piece. Missing piece. You didn't find anything missing. Nothing was missing at all, boss. Play. Missing piece.
Plot point.
Missing piece. Missing piece. Microchip. Drug microchip. Missing. So, then the guy's just like, oh, and he's like, we found it. We get back to the evil boss.
Yeah.
And some poor...
low-level
management guy who was in charge of maybe that one room.
Yeah.
He's working his way up Evil Phil Hartman's organization, which, by the way, if you've ever listened to our Triple X episode, Evil Phil Hartman's organization does not look as fun as your organization from Triple X.
This whole scene made me think about that. I started to compare and contrast your Detour versus Phil Hartman Inc. And, like, it's night and day different.
He bashes this guy's head in.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, hey, they busted in, man, and they burned the money. This is what they looked like. I've come to you. I got descriptions. This is what they said they were doing. Oh, that was... Okay, thank you.
I do love, at this point, though, Evil Henchman. Because he's like... I think he alternates from his expressions. He alternates between, I want to kill Vin Diesel.
Yeah.
Because this is now my arch enemy guy I have to because of the train thing. To just, like, that same sort of just, like, this is a bunch of crap.
Yeah. For a split second, I thought it was going to be the trick that a lot of movies pull, where you think one guy is going to get killed, and he turns around and kills the other guy, which I think we might have already seen in a Fast and Furious movie, possibly. I thought maybe he was going to kill the one guy for all the trouble this has caused, because that's the guy you should be angry at. Why are you killing this poor low-level drug guy who just got busted in? This is the guy who brought the wrong people on.
Yeah.
Accidentally killed the guards, let the car get away, lost them completely, failed again when they raided the house to catch him that time and got all these other guys killed.
This guy has more screw-ups than the guy whose entire job it was just to manage the little
that guy's got
drug business.
Nothing but screw-ups. This other guy's just sitting there in his boxers and the tank top making sure that people are weighing drugs properly. He gets busted in and robbed.
To the evil core and
Yeah, he's like the closing manager at McDonald's, and like somebody whatever, they leave the refrigerator unplugged, and I don't even know where I'm going with that. He's forget that. I don't know what I'm talking about. But point is, it'd be somebody else's fault.
Yeah.
But yeah, he gets bashed in the head. He's dead, right?
Yeah.
Because they show blood just dripping off.
But he just calmly
Evil Phil Hartman picks up like a paperweight and just bashes this guy over the head. And then I thought, like I said, that he was going to kill the other guy. But he doesn't. And so he says, we're going to get all my money in one place.
Yep.
And I'm thinking to myself, that's not smart. But then immediately I'm proven wrong because I go, oh, that is smart, because where do they consolidate all the money?
Well, and then they find out because they do that elaborate, tail scene.
Yes.
And then they follow it straight back to the police headquarters.
Yeah, police station. He's going to keep it all in the police safe. And, they're sitting on the rooftop, and they're watching this, and they, Roman's like, this job just got...
At this point, are they all wanted?
Yeah.
Or does this come back?
No, they're not all wanted yet.
Okay.
Just the 3 of them are wanted at this point.
Okay. Yeah, because I remember thinking, how are they doing all of this? Because, these are the most wanted people. Yeah, and then I remembered, the crew actually, no one knows who the crew is. They're just out on rooftops
and everything. So what does Roman say? This just went from Mission Impossible to Mission Insanity.
Yeah, that was a good one.
Everybody laughs. And that is not my favorite line. I am saving my favorite line till the end. And he's doing his usual thing. And they're like, yeah, this is... And I think they're all starting to kind of be like... No, they're not all doubtful yet. There's a time later in the movie when they all get to be doubtful, isn't there? When even Han is like, come on, man. That's after Vince gets killed. When Dom is... We'll get to that.
Yeah.
I just remembered what it was. So everyone's like, come on, Roman. And he's like, I'll talk him into it. So they say they're going to talk him into it. And Dom wants to stick to the plan. And then we get to the thing where... There's going to be some good old Ocean's 11 heist action. They're going over what the plan is going to be. Mm-hmm. They have public records to the police station.
Yeah.
So they know where the safe is.
Which I was wondering, I know that you can do that here. Is that a thing in Rio? Do they have the same sort of
Can you do
access?
It here?
Uh-huh.
Right now, you're telling me, and I'm not doubting you, I'm legitimately asking you.
Yeah, you go to the records office.
Post 9/11, I can go and say, can I see the complete blueprints for the Chicago police station? Because that would boggle my mind if you can do that.
I do wonder about that now that you say it in that context, but you should be able to.
Wow. Okay, well, that's fine. I mean, good on them for finding...
They might, unless there's something where they, say is a security issue.
But you know what? Good on them for finding a way to somewhat legitimately... have them have those plans other than my Uncle Ricky worked on building that police station or something like that. Yeah, he designed it. So they're having that scene in every heist movie because this is very much a heist movie.
Oh, yeah.
Where they got to go over this is what your roles are. This is what this guy specializes in. This is what you're going to do. It's all going to fall into place because it's obviously anyone who writes one of these movies reverse engineers everything from the heist itself.
Yeah.
So all right, we're going to need a guy who's a good driver. Let's go back and add a part about we can need a guy who's a good driver.
Yeah. So they find out there's a safe.
They find out there's a safe, and they need to get in there and they need to look at what kind of safe it is.
Yeah.
And so I love this little scene.
Hence,
and he's
hijinks ensue.
He's gonna we need someone to go in there, and they're like, "Who's gonna do that?" And they all just look at him and laugh.
Yeah.
And he goes in and has what I think is a great little scene. Oh, where he's trying to talk his way into the evidence locker.
Yeah. What's absurd too, because he shows his ID, says you're Caucasian.
Yeah. Well, first it's a girl. And he's like, "Hey, girl, what are you doing later on?" And she just looks at him and shakes her head, and she steps away, and some tough guy comes up.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Says you're Caucasian." He's like, "This is a tad." And he's like, and for some reason, why is the conversation even continuing after that?
At this point, you're pretending to be an FBI agent.
You're impersonating an FBI agent with a stolen ID.
But why not?
With the name of a guy who is the most wanted man.
Yeah.
I never even thought about that. He's the most wanted man in Rio right now, and they know he's in Rio. And not only that, but
notified.
The police would have been notified, and if they're all crooked, they would have been notified by not only
that, but by evil
authorities, but by evil corps. So this is the worst cop there. Oh, it says your name's Brian O'Connor, the one guy who everyone is looking for.
I just need to store this evidence here. Is it safe? Yes, it's safe.
Yeah, let me get in there. And he's like, come on. So maybe and maybe that was the plan all along. Maybe the plan all along was he knew he wasn't going to get in the evidence locker. He just had to annoy the guy enough just to be like, just give it to me. He just had to get the bag in the evidence locker.
Which, at the same time, though, if you're a cop, are you annoyed by someone enough to just take a random box and to put in
box in there? No. But I liked the little scene. I thought Roman was great in it. So what is in the little bag?
Yeah, so box? Later on, they get back to the van.
Yes.
And immediately, this little, remote control car with a camera on it.
A little camera on it.
Which alerts no one with it busting out of the fifth shelf.
There's a lot of
falling
scenes,
on the ground.
As is the case with many movies, there's a lot of scenes in this movie where if someone would have just accidentally walked into the room at the same time, like the bathroom scene we're going to get into in a few minutes.
Well, how would they have... Okay, this is one... Because it's me.
Okay.
I'm sitting there thinking to myself, how do they know when it's on the shelf? Like, do they agree, okay, we're going to wait a half hour?
Yeah, because he leaves as the guys...
Are we going to wait, like, an hour?
And then it's not just going to be put behind another box.
Yeah,
or... And that's
or...
just movies.
Or, like, you know, he starts it up
away.
Right when, like, he's carrying it.
Yeah. Or the guy opens it to look in it to see what the heck is in this evidence box that I'm putting in my evidence locker.
But anyway.
Because of movie.
Yeah.
He knows safes. Tej is an expert at safes. And there's a little bit of a nice little banter between the three of them. Who's in there? It's Tej, Brian, and Roman. And, of course, Tej is an expert on safes in true CSI fashion where everybody's an expert on something. And they go, how are you an expert on a safe? He's like, I had a wife before I knew you guys. That's enough.
Yeah.
Don't need to explain it. That's fine. And this is the granddaddy of all safes.
Yeah, this is the best safe in the universe.
Ooh, I have their names.
Oh.
Time for Leo and Santos to shine.
Okay.
I don't know if they ever say their names in the movie.
I don't know.
Did you enjoy their banter? Did you enjoy these guys?
It was
how
pretty
one
good.
is always negative and one's telling him not to be negative.
Yeah.
I absolutely respected the fact that they spoke their language the entire time. You know, and I remember interviews with Vin Diesel saying, no, you know, this is the culture. This is for everybody. This is a global franchise. We're going to have people in here. You're going to read subtitles. They're going to speak the language. Mm-hmm. I can't remember how much of that was in Tokyo Drift. I think there was some. And I think there's been some throughout most of the movies. Mm-hmm. But those guys don't think spoke... And it wasn't the thing that some movies do. And Hunt for Red October is notorious for this. Where it's like, okay, we're going to start them off with a few lines in their language. Yeah. And then we're magically just going to segue. Sci-fi movies are notorious for this because everyone has translators. But, like, they didn't speak English the entire movie. They didn't do the movie thing where it's like, give them subtitles for a couple lines and then they'll speak English. No.
And then all of a sudden, it's like,
yeah, and one guy's negative, and I love the little part where he's like, why do you have to be so negative? And he's like, I'm not negative, I'm positive that you're a screw-up, and stuff like this.
Yeah, that was great. The banter was great.
The banter was great, and they're the explosive guys, and they're kind of the muscle. Yeah. So what do they do?
They get down into the sewer.
Yes. And
plant a bomb in the sewer pipes, which is just, I would have died. I would have killed myself.
Yeah, you would have. The thing would have been over for you.
I would have stood there with the bomb and just
listen,
waited.
I know you're having a kid, but where's Leif? He just blew up. He just because he opens a sewer valve and all kinds of goo comes out.
It falls out on top of him,
and he puts the bomb in there, and he's like, he just brushes his hand off like you have cookie crumbs on your hand. Yeah, and that. Again, clever. It's multi-part. That causes the piping to blow up because now they need plumbers.
And then the poor guy, I think that's the evidence guy.
I think so, yeah. I think it was a callback.
He was on one of the toilets when they exploded. Which
that would freak you out.
I would have immediately I would have broken a mirror and just stabbed myself in the heart. It would have been...
It would stop your heart. One, it'd be gross, like you for germs. But it would just freak you out if you're just sitting there and all of a sudden, all this water comes out.
That would have been it. That would have been the last time you saw me.
But the clever thing about it is that is so that they can get in and pose as plumbers.
To fix the pipes.
So they go into the bathroom as plumbers, and they're going to get in there as plumbers so they can attach some kind of... Explain the technology of this to me. They piggyback onto the camera feed?
Yeah, so they cut open the wall, and then there's all the feeds, the security lines, and all of that stuff.
And luckily nobody walks in.
Well, they put the doorstop under the door.
Do they? I missed that. I saw you put a wet... Oh, and he put a wet floor sign in the hallway. Do you hear a chainsaw going on in there? Yeah, but there's a wet floor sign.
Yeah,
I don't want to trip.
Plus,
did you see what happened to Ricky? I'm not going in there. So
he puts a doorstop in there, so at least they'd have, like, that warning, I guess. But, like... and I don't know, it just showed them kind of putting something on the wire to, get the feed.
And now they can see what they're going to need escape route-wise.
Yeah, so they see the security camera, and then they see, okay, well, now we need to figure out how to get in there.
And which brings us to the point in every Fast and Furious movie. And what point is that, Leif?
So, we need some cars.
We need what kind of cars we need. Exactly. So we get the getting the cars montage.
Yeah.
And they go to, as always, what was the website that you called? localstreetrace.messageboard.com or whatever, where you just can randomly...
www.streetracer.co.info.
Where you just know where every street race is going on in every country in the world at any given time. You know the community.
Yeah.
And so they go.
And they're all happy.
And I'm thinking this is going to... Okay, here's the sequence where we're going to see... the big race. I'm like, okay, because the guy comes out and he's like, you got a lot of nerve showing your face around here.
Oh, yeah.
You're a one-in man. Because Dom knows every street racer in the world over, from Tokyo to Rio.
Well, when you run
to the streets of LA.
When you run,
oh yeah, Dom probably runs the. He's probably under his name. It says administrator.
Yeah.
Or he is there, and he's saying, he's doing the usual like car for car type race.
Yeah.
And I'm like, awesome. At this point, I'm getting locked in for a cool race through the streets of Rio. It's going to be your typical race. No.
Oh, no.
Because they're supposed to give you one of these every episode.
Yeah, next scene, they're just driving into with a car.
Yeah, and I was actually disappointed. Because one thing that this franchise has held on to is, except for this one, and I guess they do it a little bit later.
Yeah.
But except for this one, they've held on to, okay, we're going to at least give you one street race per movie.
There's a lot of movie to get through still.
There's a lot of movie to get through still.
So, I mean, they couldn't have fit a street race into this thing.
They do kind of.
Well, yeah. But, I mean, you couldn't have fit that one in. You don't need to have an intermission at this point.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So I was like, oh, we don't see the race. So they start testing the run. And, they can't have the street race because they immediately now have to have this cool thing where they got to try to... And did I understand this right? They know how long it takes for the camera to turn from right to left. So you have to twist with the camera so you're against it?
This is like goes back to like sneakers
Yes.
stuff, man, where it's like, okay, well, you have to do this. You have to get through here, otherwise the jig's up.
Yeah.
So they had the 10-second window to,
Yeah, because you're kind of going with exactly right before the camera, so it's always like a second behind you. So they're trying to outrun the cameras.
And meanwhile, though,
they're not having any luck.
The safe comes, too.
Yeah, they just get a huge safe delivered somehow.
Which... many questions, but it doesn't matter.
We could do a half hour right now trying to talk about how did they pay for the safe? How did they get it delivered? Why did nobody question?
If you say,
ordered the safe?
I need to order this safe from these people.
Yeah.
I mean, what kind of form do I fill out to have this safe shipped to
Yes,
Rio?
to Rio. How much would the shipping possibly be on that?
Yeah.
How is this safe is still, you can just call and order this safe, it's still available, and what that's...
I would hope that it would be free shipping. Maybe it's just free shipping on Amazon.
But you know what I just realized?
Boom, one click.
That'd be great. You know what if the price of this safe goes down, anytime from now and when the safe is in stock, you'll be charged the lesser price for the safe. You know what I just realized, though, this second, and that's why I love doing this, because it just sheds light on so many things. They needed to have that establishment that they ordered another safe for later on in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so I have that. How did they get the safe delivered? And then...
Amazon Prime, man.
Oh, yeah, and then I said,
2 days.
Because this plays into it. Well, first off, we start to see Han falling in love with Giselle because she's just a good driver. I love the Han and Giselle character arc until they both die. But... Oh, yeah, by the way, I forgot to mention this, but we probably need a handprint.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have told you about that when I was initially telling you about the safe.
When I was talking about how there's this big, huge electronic security thing on there.
Before we did this whole thing. So, we're off to get the handprint. And good Lord, this is Giselle's time to shine. Having a man touch her butt.
Well, that's the thing. And this is what I was talking about earlier. So, Han, seeing Han sitting there, it's just like, oh, yeah, that's some dude.
Oh, yeah.
He fits in.
So it fits in such to the point that let's paint you a picture. They're sitting on a beach.
Yeah.
And they want to get a handprint from this guy. And they're thinking, we'll go to the bar. He's going to hold a glass at some point. Mm-hmm. But there's like a bajillion bodyguards around them.
Yeah,
and
so
Han
there's
is
no way.
We're going to have to go back to the drawing board, maybe get a couple more people to do a distraction of some kind. We got to replant this.
Yeah.
And then she does the thing that she kind of echoes in 6.
Yeah,
don't send a man to do a woman's job. So she goes in, and of course these guys...
It's all one big, okay, well, here she is in her...
Yeah, it's a little cheesecakey.
Swimsuit.
But they immediately let her just come up to the bodyguard.
Yeah.
And the first bodyguard is like, And then she looks over and smiles at Evil Phil Hartman, and he's like, no, let her up.
Yeah, this is great.
Let her up here. And she turns, before she walks up the steps, looks directly at Han. Did you see this? Smiles, shakes her head a little bit, and continues to walk up the steps, and I'm thinking, that kind of just gave it away. Like, aren't they like, hey, who's that? Yeah, who's that guy over there that you're clearly communicating with? You're with a guy.
But maybe it should just be like, ha, take that.
Oh, yeah.
Burn.
But she immediately, Evil Phil Hartman has her sit on his lap.
Yeah.
And then he puts his hand on her butt.
Yeah, it was some serious.
And at first he kind of just has the small of her back. It's like the small of her back.
Test the waters.
Yeah.
And then just goes in for the grab.
And then the next scene is them coming back. They have the swimsuit. We have the handprint somehow.
Yeah, they show like the ultraviolet light and it's like, here's the handprint.
Is that how handprints would work on clothes? If I touch my shirt like I am right now and then you get an ultraviolet light, is my handprint on my shirt? Or was that some special kind of bikini she was wearing?
You can get some kind of... I think you can get some kind of print from clothing.
Well, they get a print. Weird. And then they just
maybe the oils in the hand.
They add insult to injury by giving her a hard time.
Yeah.
This weird oily hair. Like, so did he just grab it or did he squeeze it? And they have this whole thing, which is a callback later. They call back to that joke twice. And they're having a good laugh until stuff starts popping up on the computer. The team's burnt.
Yes, that's when the team goes.
So they know about it. And they learn about Hobbs. And he's like, Hobbs is Old Testament. He's the best.
Which, also, like, so are they just, like, constantly scanning, like, FBIMostWanted.com?
I don't know. Possibly.
I mean, it's like they just have that in their, like, little news feed. It's like they have the RSS feed.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I guess you would be trying to keep track on how close they were.
Of course, I guess if you are a criminal, maybe that's what it is.
Yeah, that you would be, like, it's a cat and mouse game where you're trying to keep track of. So they say they need to get some air, and so they come out for hiding, but what do they do? They want to prove again that they're not afraid. That you know about us, we know you know about us, we know you know.
Yeah, so they there's like that weird confrontation between him and Vin Diesel's and The Rock.
At the street race.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're back there with all their people.
Yeah.
All their fellow street racers and their element, fellow. And obviously, at this point, everybody knows them because of the amazing Rio street race scene that that was taken from us that we never saw. And he comes and he's like, all right.
And also we didn't see Brian spend a late night on the message boards.
No, that's true. Like, hey, everybody, listen, this is what's going to be happening. Who's going to be there? Hobbs Dom showdown. Oh, yeah. Okay, so they're there, and Hobbs is like, okay, you guys are idiots, but you're coming with me. And he's like, do you really think? And that's when he says, I don't care who you are. You're just two jokers who came across my desk.
Yeah.
And then Vin Diesel yells, do you know where you are? Then he puts his arms on and goes, you're in Rio! But he does this pronunciation of it that I can't even remember. Like, what was the pronunciation? I mean, it's possibly the correct pronunciation, but he does a he does an accent all of a sudden, am I right? And he does a very ham-fisted, over-the-top pronunciation. And everybody pulls out guns.
Oh, yeah.
On federal agents.
Yeah.
And I guess a part of it, what they're saying is,
well,
and I think they have part of this,
federal agents, doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's like, you're not our federal agents.
Yeah.
We don't care. Good. What are you going to arrest us? Arrest us for what?
Other than just shoot them, I guess.
Yeah. And so the one guy's like, there's too much heat here. Like his one kind of co-worker, whatever, his crew guy.
Yeah.
And he's like, there's too much heat here. We'll get him another day. And they have we're kind of minimizing it. I wish I would remember some of the dialogue. But there's a great back and forth between Dom and Hobbs and Paul Walker.
Yeah.
Where they're like, okay. And they leave, but this was all to put a tracker on Hobbs' car.
Yeah.
Hobbs pulls off, and you see that Tej was under the car.
Yeah, he's like, it's there. We got it.
And so at this point, Vin goes back to Elena.
Which, now that I'm thinking about it, does the tracker ever apply to the rest of the movie?
It does. It does.
Okay.
Vin goes somehow and sees Elena. Now, did they put a tracker on Elena's car too? Is that how he knows where she lives?
I don't know. Yeah, well, unless that was also
the tracker plays into another part. But now that I think of it, he goes back to get his necklace. And she's like,
Maybe.
is this worth... And again, he creepily pushes her up against a wall and puts his hand over her mouth and rips the necklace off of her. And at first I'm like, is that her necklace? And I'm like, oh no, I didn't see that he lost the necklace earlier in the movie. Did they make a point to show you that she picks up a necklace?
She looks down and it's like crumbled up on the ground.
Oh, and he notices she's wearing it
when
they're at the standoff there, just the previous scene. So he knows that he's worked that Dom magic.
Yeah.
He knows he's in. He's in. She's wearing the necklace.
Oh, yeah,
she didn't rat him out before. Dom knows he's worked his Dom charm.
Yeah, corrupt top that.
Yeah, so he's going to see her, and they have a heart-to-heart about, they understand each other. They've both lost somebody.
Yeah.
I think we've already blew past the scene.
As always, Elena understands. She
understands. She gets it. We've blown past the scene that we did mention earlier, I believe, where she tries to tell The Rock, I don't think maybe these are bad guys, and he says, listen, I don't...
Don't
worry about it. Stop talking. And he goes to get his necklace back. She understands him, and then he leaves.
Yeah.
So she lets him leave. So she's pretty much completely on board Team Diesel at this point, because there's not a scene with her immediately getting on the phone and calling The Rock and saying, hey, guess who was just in my apartment?
Yeah.
So they get back, and they need invisible cars.
Yep.
At this point... Were you thinking that they are actually going to die another day-esque invisible cars? What did you think was coming when you saw this?
Well, I started to think about it because that is where my mind first went. I was just like, oh, here we go. But then I started thinking about it. Again, this is like the Han thing where I was like thinking, okay, well, he's unassuming. I'm thinking, well, okay, what would you need? You would need a cop car or something.
So you realized it was a cop car before they showed it?
I was thinking that, or like just some like regular junk car you'd see parked in a parking garage.
So you didn't think it was actually going to be an invisible car? I can't remember what I thought when I first saw it, but I thought it was very clever.
I initially wanted it to be.
I thought it was very clever that they get police cars. Yeah. And it shows the four of them, and they're driving in police cars. Mm-hmm. It's Roman, Han,
Brian,
and Dom.
Yeah.
And they come up to a stoplight. Nobody else is out on the streets. Mm-hmm. And here's our race.
Because Rio is.
We get our race.
Night, yeah.
And they bet $100,000.
They up it to $1 million.
They up it to $1 million because Han is like, we're all dead anyway if this doesn't happen. So they have their race scene, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
It's just kind of a drag race. It's just a straightaway race.
Roman is loudly broadcasting over the
PA. Oh, yeah, he is. He's got his lights going, and he's talking on the PA. Hey, we just stole these cop cars. You want to race them? Like, yeah, he's talking on the PA. Yeah.
There's no secret about what's happening.
No, there's not. He's like yelling at the PA the entire time. Get out of my way, Dom. Mm-hmm. They're racing. Nobody cares. And we find out that Dom lets Brian win. And you kind of know, and it's confirmed later, that he lets him win so he has a little bit extra money. It's a present for his nephew. Then we get to a scene, and I did not understand what was happening here. Why Mia gets saved by thugs from Vince. Vince pops back up. I had forgotten about Vince.
Oh, I thought Vince was gone.
You thought Vince was gone. Why is she out in public? Is she going to get something? Is she doing part of the mission? Or is she just going shopping? Like, why was Mia out in public?
I don't know.
She is one of the three. Well, they're all one
at this point. Now, yeah.
I wish I could remember why they send her out in public. It's with a purpose, I want to say. But she's there, and she starts... It's that thing in the movies where she sees a guy, and he's peering over a newspaper, and another guy is like, wait a minute, what's this guy doing? And she knows she's in trouble. She walks a little faster. Guy steps out in front. Vince grabs her real quick. Shuffles her off. Does Vince fight any guys? I'm leery. I'm not...
I don't know. I don't think so.
Confident with this scene. So he just brusts her off, and the three guys are just like, not going to fight that one dude, and not going to follow him.
Yeah, because Vince then ends up back at the base.
Yeah, they go back to the base, which they could... But, again, are they at a different base? They got to be. Because the other base has been discovered. Okay.
Unless they're just like,
yeah, they won't think to come back here.
Maybe that's just what it is. Everyone knows where the bases are, and they're just like, we're not going to go over there. We're not going to cause trouble yet.
I don't want to run on any more rooftops. We'll figure it out. So he's welcomed back into the group, which I loved. He walks in, and they're like, Vince, what are you doing here? And she's like, no, Vince saved my life. And at this point, I'm still like, is Vince a double agent, so to speak?
Yeah, just how did Vince...
Because why was he easily just able to whisk her away from these three dudes? They would have followed her. Mm-hmm. But no, Dom is like, you hungry? And Vince is like, I could eat. He's like...
I feel so... Vince is like the D student.
He really is.
He's like,
I am hungry, yes. Well, you're saying grace. And a part of me is like, all right, come on, Vince. Vince is back into it. Awesome. So, Vince, you're part of the group. And he's like, can I be part of the job? Of course you can. And you get the money. And nobody is like, for 1 second, none of these people know who Vince is.
Yeah.
And not Roman. And I was expecting it from Roman. But not Roman or Tej or Han. Nobody is like, so we each are getting $1 million less now because this guy showed up the last day who's done nothing and is like, I'm part of the group now.
Poor Vince. He was never getting that money.
I get $10 million now too, right? No, you literally showed up.
He was never getting that money.
No, he wasn't.
We'll see the rabbit someday, George.
He is. He really is the George and Letty. Like I want to see a production of Mice and Men with Vin Diesel and this guy who plays Vince in their world. That would be great. Please, Vin Diesel, make that happen.
I got another job for us. Oh, tell me about the job.
Tell me about the job, Dom. It's going to be great.
Why did we go to this area?
There's going to be so much barbecue. Yeah, we'll steal cars again. Yeah, and we'll be back in LA on the porch. So, they're, all of a sudden, she decides, they're like going to celebrate. They're going to go on the job. Mm-hmm. And they offer Mia a drink. Mia can't have a drink. You know, I'll have a drink. And she's like, she can't.
Yeah.
And then everybody finds out now that she's going to have a baby. They all hug each other. Congratulations, congratulations. Call back to the joke about grabbing the butt. And then it's showtime. It's time to go on the job. Mm-hmm. I, at this point, am completely confused as to how they get in this. Oh, Hobbs shows up.
Yeah.
Oh, this is where it plays in, because he goes, I found that tracker the moment I left. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Because they think, because they say, sorry to interrupt, but they say, it's showtime, Hobbs is on the other side of the city. It'll take him 10 minutes to get across the city. This is our window. We're never going to have a better time than now. Okay. Even though this job takes significantly longer than 10 minutes.
Yes.
When we come to find out. But Hobbs shows up. He finds them at the same time, and he's like, I found that tracker that night. Are you kidding me?
Okay, I missed that tracker.
Maybe Elena did say he was there, and then they realized they must have tracked us. So maybe Dom did put this whole mission on jeopardy to get his necklace back. Because she's even like, why would you risk your life for a $12 piece of silver? Da-da-da. They have their talk. We're past that. So we have, and I'll let you take this, just a brutal fight.
Oh, yeah. The Evil Corps just, like, unloads on...
Yeah.
And I want to know why they were, like, fighting them.
I don't know. It's not Evil Corps that pops in.
I thought it was.
No, it's Hobbs' men.
Yeah, but...
I don't think Evil Corps... we're not to that part of it. We're when they just have that brutal, just mano-a-mano, slug drag-down fight, which is I don't even know how to say this without it sounding weird, but just 300-pound hunks of just beef just pummeling each other with their fists.
This is what amazed me, because I was watching this and I was thinking to myself, I was amazed at how much... I don't know how to put it. They just seemed hindered by how ginormous their arms were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just a slugfest.
Like
there's no finesse to it.
They wanted to like hit each other more, but they were just. And it was brutal and amazing at the same time. And I guess
the extended version is more brutal. Did you watch the regular or the extended? Oh, you watched the extended.
Yeah.
Okay, I watched the regular. So I guess I think the extended edition has all of I think it's ridiculous. I read on it. It's like an extra 47 seconds. Not even this fight, just in general. There's some blood splatters. There's a few more swear words. But I guess this fight
Vin Diesel just goes to town on him.
And I guess the only other scene I missed was the scene when they tell the two guys who go into the bathroom that it's their time. This is what they're going to do. They just, in the regular edition, they just cut to them doing it.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I guess there's like a part where like they just beats him in the ribs.
Oh, there's
and another guy just comes down on his head.
Well, and like, see, I don't know. Then, did you see where like Vin Diesel was about to like put a wrench?
Yes.
Into
that part. By this point, the rest of the Hobbs's crew, has them basically covered.
Yeah.
The rest of the crew, and they're just allowing this knockdown drag-out fight to happen. Like maybe they're just like, oh man, I see what Hobbs does. Yeah. Because everyone else is kind of, they're not like with their hands behind their back cuffed, but they're...
It's taken all
care
over.
Of.
Yeah.
It's over for them. It's over for them all. And they just continue. They bust through a wall. And they're still just continuing. None of the guys go up and try to pull Vin Diesel off or point a gun at him and say, hey. And then Mia's like, please stop.
Oh, yeah.
And even at this point, Vin Diesel is like over Hobbs, punching him in the face repeatedly. And then he picks up a big monkey wrench, and he's about to come down. And at this point, still, in real life, this guy's got 6 bullets in him.
At this point, yeah, you go up like that, you're dead.
Yeah. No, they're just watching. And she's like, please stop. Stop it. And he's just a man deranged. Yeah. And yeah, he's dead. He's dead. And then she gets through to him.
Yeah, and he hits
the wrench next to it. And at this point, it's all over. And I have an interesting note on this. You could tell this is The Rock's first movie because The Rock loses the fight. You've seen now, because of contract stuff and behind-the-scenes bickering and ego, if there's a fight between The Rock and Vin Diesel now, neither one of them is losing. We've seen a couple fights between them now where it comes to like...
Yeah, it's all just like...
It's a draw.
Yeah.
They each have their tough guy line. It was after seeing 8, 7, and 6, it was almost odd to see The Rock not be as equally dominant as Vin Diesel. And because at this point, he's a guest star in this movie. You didn't know if he was going to be back or not.
He looks over at like the chunk of concrete taken out of the floor like, wait a minute.
And this is just in that time, in real life, in Hollywood, The Rock was still coming up in movies, and he was a guest star in this. This was one of the things that made him big, and he definitely helped elevate it as well. It was mutually beneficial. But, I mean, again, it was just interesting for me to see that. It's like, Vin Diesel was still completely in charge behind the scenes when they made this movie. Wouldn't happen now.
No.
Would not happen now. To the point where almost part of the bickering about Fast 8 was they were, like, having behind-the-scene confrontation about who should have more screen time. And if this was actually The Rock's franchise now and not Vin Diesel's, if he was in The Rock's franchise and not the other way around. Interesting how much has changed.
It's awkward.
In like 5 odd years in 4 movies. So they're on their way to the airport.
I have to say, it does seem more rockish of a movie.
It's The Rock's, the Fate of the Furious was legitimately The Rock's movie. He was leading the crew.
I don't mean just him being a leader, but it just seems like an over-the-top Rock movie.
Yeah. And I don't know if that's for better or for worse. And I guess part of them getting back together and saying, okay, we're going to be in the 9th one, is The Rock had to just come to terms with the fact that this is Vin Diesel's franchise. He's been with it from the start. He's the producer.
Yeah.
Yes, we love having you on here. Maybe part of the deal with Sweeten's like, we'll give you a spinoff. Okay. But let's come, so anyway, that's absolutely besides the point. They're on their way to the airport.
Yeah. So, on their way to the airport, and then that's when the weird just shootout happens.
Yeah. There's just like your typical, anytime, here's the thing, man, you know what job I would never have? Transporting criminals in a movie world.
Oh, yeah.
Because you're dead.
Yes.
All right, Leif and Justin, you're transporting this criminal. You're going to go across that long bridge. We have a couple escorts for you, don't worry. No.
I quit.
I quit. You just need to go through this most dangerous part of the city.
It's fine. Everything's fine except there's just one little weak spot right over here.
Yeah, there's one spot. There's a blind spot where you go under a bridge.
But that's only like 10 seconds. Don't worry.
There's a lot of guys up on top of that bridge, though, in masks. Yeah, don't worry about it.
That's what they do on the bridge.
We got 2 other cars surrounding you. They're normal cars.
Don't worry. There's a guy in a Escort and a guy in a Fiesta. You're fine.
You're fine. So all hell breaks loose.
Oh, yeah.
And we just have a shootout, and The Rock has to jump out of his car. One of his crew's cars just gets blown up. His other car has to jump out and address this situation. Evil Phil Hartman's men have him surrounded.
And I mean,
they're having a shootout.
Is just dead.
And meanwhile, back all, handcuffed, is the Fast and Furious crew with Elena, because Elena's never allowed to get out of the car or whatever. She's like, you stay here.
Yeah.
Again, stay here. And, I really wanted to use you, but I don't ever want to use you because you're a lady. And so she's in there, and then Vin Diesel's like, shows her the cuffs, and he's like, come on. One of two things is going to happen. We're sitting ducks, and we're just going to be murdered.
Yeah.
Or we can help. And so she makes the decision to let him go. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I don't know if she's letting him go to help him. Probably not, because she doesn't know they're going to help. She's probably letting him go so they just don't get machine gunned down in the back of a van.
I would think that in movie logic, she's letting them go to help.
Okay. So we see that,
because he saved her already, blah, blah, blah.
So we see that the one, kind of sad, we see the one guy, two guys are, hanging, pinned out of a car, and, grenades get thrown, and the dude just looks at the grenade, and it's just oh, he has enough time to take a good look at that grenade.
It's not just one grenade. No, it's the one grenade lands right there. And then to make matters worse, it's another grenade just falls right there.
And it doesn't grenades land, and the guy's like, oh, and it blows up. No, he has 30 seconds to look at the grenades, look over at The Rock, who I believe The Rock is shot.
Yeah, he's laying there.
And The Rock is trying to get to him. He's dazed. And they just look at each other, and the dude who's pinned in the car just looks back at the grenades. And it just blows up. The other guy, the guy who gives the good news, bad news guy, he's been shot at this point. He's the first one to get out of the car and get shot. And they're surrounding The Rock.
Yeah.
And they got guns on him.
Oh, yeah.
And The Rock is just he's done for. He knows. He's done for. Nope. Because what happens?
Yeah, then the cavalry shows up.
Yes.
Shoots everybody. All the drug guys are instantly dead.
Yeah, they just blast them away. Now,
basically, they can do the job that the specially trained, task force,
no
nonsense group.
Nope. They come in, blast all these guys, take them out. No one's on them, even though they would be, because they've taken out the other crew, so now it's time to get the Fast and Furious crew. You just see, the guy's about to shoot in true movie fashion. He's about to, shoot Hobbs, who's laying on the ground, and then you see, bullets start flying through him.
Yeah.
And he drops, and pans up. Who do you see? It's Toretto.
Yeah.
Blasts him away with a shotgun. Do we see Vince shoot anybody in this? Do we see Vince get shot?
No, I've been directing in my head. I knew he died, but I don't remember him actually dying.
I don't remember him even being in that scene.
I just know he was gone at one point.
I completely forgot Vince was even there, because that's just in true D student Vince fashion. He showed up at just the wrong time. Hey guys, it's me, Vince. Boom, cops bust out the door. Aww.
Not again.
But he and then there's a scene that I wish we would have saw this together, because it was such a fist pumping moment.
When Vin Diesel and The Rock limp off. Is that the one?
Just right before that. He's laying on the ground. Yeah. You just saw Vin Diesel blasted his would-be murderer away with a shotgun.
Yeah.
They walk up. They look at each other. Music swells.
Yeah.
Vin Diesel extends the hand down.
Come on.
The Rock clamps down on it. And I want to say that they do the Arnold Schwarzenegger Predator, we don't touch hands.
Yeah.
You grab my wrist, I grab your wrist. With him and Carl Weathers when they go and he pulls him up, and it's the music swells, and it's yes.
And then
they're back at headquarters.
They limp off.
Dom wants to finish the plan. Mm-hmm. And everybody's no, this is when everybody, even Han and everyone is
this is insane.
No, we can't. I mean, this is it. They know we're here. They know what's coming. This has happened. And, you see Elena, and Elena's standing there. And I'm thinking this whole time, I'm where's The Rock? Where's Hobbs? And Vin Diesel's like, you know what? I brought you in on this, but I have to do this.
Yeah. He's doing it no matter what.
Oh, first they have a sad scene where I love. I don't mean to be mean, but Vin Diesel trying to do crying scenes. Because there's a scene where he's like, you were my brother, and they took me. Oh, yeah, because we forgot the Vince death scene. The great Vince death scene where they're on the way back in the car. And he's like, Dom. And he's like, you don't remember this?
No.
You don't remember him in the back of the car shot up?
No.
And he's covered in blood and he's holding his guts in. And he's like, Dom. He's like, because it's the true, like we were just talking about of Mice and Men. He's like, you gotta meet my son one day. His name is Nico. We named him after you. Dominic, Nick, Nico. You gotta meet him one day. And you don't remember this?
No.
I wonder if this is cut out of the extended edition.
No, it can't be.
and he's like, I'll meet him one day. And then the next scene, I don't think they even show him die. I think it cuts to the next scene, and they're back at the Bel Air.
Wait, I do.
And Vin Diesel's pulling a blanket over him, his dead body.
I remember the you gotta meet him someday, because I thought to myself, didn't he meet them already, like, at the hideout in the beginning of the movie when they met up to talk about the first job that got him in all of this mess?
Oh, no, Dom wasn't there. That was Brian and Mia.
I know, but...
You would think if he's in the area...
He met Vince at some point.
He met Vince at some point. Yeah, you would think he would have met his kid. He's like, you gotta meet Nico. And then the next scene is Dom standing over Vince's dead body. And it turns out Vince was not a double agent. He wasn't playing both sides. He didn't have a dramatic death. He just got killed in a shootout. He was brought back to have a familiar face from the first one.
He just was a poor fool.
I was hoping to see a final confrontation between him and Brian.
Yeah, you
like I
that?
Said an hour ago, I was hoping to see some kind of making amends of where Brian's there too, and he's like, you're not, Brian, maybe you're not such a buster anyway, or whatever, But nothing. Vince just dies. Yeah. He dies. And, Vin Diesel's like, you were my brother. And, now I'm gonna... This is why he can't let it go.
Yeah.
This is why, plot-wise, why he can't let it go, why they don't just all...
Because now it's real.
Now it's real. They killed Vince, and now he has to take care of... He's like, from now on, I got eyes on Nico. I love that phrase. If something ever happens to you, I'm just going to use that phrase. Now, from now on, I have eyes on whoever. And I hope you would do the same for me. And then people would be at the wake being like, what is Leif talking about? They took you from me. Who's Nico? So, we all know from Furious 7 and that Vin Diesel likes nothing more than to have a self-centered soliloquy over a dead body of his friend. It's all about him. And he's on the steps and he's like, no, they killed Vince.
Yeah.
I got to do this now. You're all free to leave. This is where I was going with this. You're all free to leave. I know you this isn't what you agreed to. Mm-hmm. Anybody can leave. And then all of a sudden we hear a voice from off screen. I'm with you. And it's Hobbs just sitting on a table.
Yeah. Well, they reference Hobbs sitting on the table earlier.
Do they?
Yeah, because they're just I forget who it was, but they point out when they're talking about how impossible this was.
Yeah.
They're like, he's on the table over there.
No,
they got him on the table.
No, they're not talking about Hobbs. They're talking about their friend who's dead lying on a table in the other room.
I thought they were talking about Hobbs the whole time. Because Hobbs was on the table.
Hobbs was on a table. I didn't even think of that. No, they're talking about this lifelong friend of theirs that was just brutally gunned down who's at the other table.
I thought, why are they making a big deal about this? He's just sitting. I mean, he was hurt.
This guy's politely sitting on a table. That's what chairs are for. No, they're talking about it would be a deterrent if someone really was actually killed and dead now. You'd be like, whoa, this is too much now, man. So even though this is what we knew would possibly happen.
And joked about in our cop car race through the city.
Guy that just kind of showed up once that Brian knows, but none of the rest of them know. Han doesn't know him. None of them know him, but whatever. It would be real. He wasn't there for any of it. Why did they care? I guess you saw someone get killed.
Yeah, but
it makes it real. But he wasn't
they've
there.
Seen, like,
he wasn't there for any of the planning, any of the training.
If I went back into the body count, they've seen like 100,000 people get killed so far.
But anyway, they're shaken by it, and then you hear Hobbs, and he's like, "I'm with you to get revenge on this guy for killing my crew."
Sword.
Because now I guess he probably understands that they never killed the DEA agents. That it was all evil Phil Hartman.
Oh, yeah, but at the same time, though, his team was killed, so it's revenge.
His team was killed, so he wants revenge. And so, because of this, everyone's like, oh, well, he's in.
They do the whole, you have my shield, you have my sword.
That's great. So, they're like, Hobbs, like, inspires them to be like, okay, let's do it. And so...
So they just charge.
Yeah, he's just hanging out there. He's not going to alert his superiors or get backup or get anything because he wants revenge.
Yeah.
So he wants to take care of this himself. They killed his crew. So security's amped up at the police station, and now I am going to let you take this and do my best not to interrupt you. This is it. Here we go.
Yeah.
I will say what Leif is about to explain to you is one of the most incredible things I've ever seen in a motion picture.
Yeah, so they charge the police station.
Yes.
In the ginormous rock vehicle that you can buy at Walmart for $6. Another separate note there. And crash into the wall. Like, the whole plan now is just, it doesn't matter. We're going in, guns blazing. Crash into the wall. He backs out. Brian and Dom zoom in their, like, cars.
Okay.
They run in and, like, hook up the safe.
Yes.
To the cars, and there's special frames now built onto these cars because
I did notice that. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
So, and then they start gunning it. So you're like, oh man, they're dragging the safe out of there.
So that, as I like to ask you when you explain these sequences, I like to see where all the players are at. So we now have tabs basically on Hobbs, Brian, and Dom. We know what their role is so far. Okay.
Yeah.
So they're pulling the safe.
Was Elena with them? No, she wasn't there.
I don't think so. No. Mia, I think we know, is back, basically being like the Oracle-esque.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, okay, this is what's happening. You got a traffic light coming up. Okay.
Yeah, because she's tapped into the entire system.
She's tapped in. So that takes care of we know where Mia is too. I do not remember where Elena is at this point. So they got the safe attached to it. Continue.
So they're gunning it. And finally, last possible minute, I think, the safe busts loose and they kind of start their run.
Yes.
Because everyone now, the police are all running down there to stop them, blah, blah, blah.
And they know where the safe is. This was probably part of their initial plan because they had the blueprints.
Yeah.
So they know what wall to crash.
Yeah. Everything was, I mean, I assume everything was known.
Okay.
The Rock does stuff, but I forget what The Rock does.
It's like we've said in these, every time we have one of these action sequences.
The fact that, like, 2 cars were just able to pull this ginormous safe out of the wall.
Yeah, they're pulling it...
At speed.
At very high speed. They're pulling the safe.
And manipulate it through an underground, like a parking garage.
Yes.
And then up a ramp, and then out onto the street.
Here's my question for you very quickly. This was the parking garage. They knew what the parking garage was like because that's the course that they set up at their base.
Yeah.
With how fast they were going to dodge the cameras. Mm-hmm. At that point, what does it matter? Well, and are you going to be going that fast, dragging a huge safe
well, see, that's the thing. The whole plan went pear-shaped.
Oh, so they were never planning on dragging the safe?
No. I don't think so.
You think they were... they weren't.
Once all security got amped up, once The Rock got involved,
they were just going to bust through the wall and use the handprint and just clear the safe out, probably.
Oh, maybe. No, because they wouldn't have busted through the wall. Why would you take the time to, like, not to detect it if you're going to, like, make a wall blow up?
Maybe they were going to use the handprint always when they got back to base just to open it.
Yeah, whatever.
But why were they doing speed trials when they were never going to be able to go that fast with a huge safe?
It was initially going to be a sneaky attack.
Okay.
And it got changed.
A sneaky attack on the way in, and then the not so sneaky as you're dragging a huge safe through the streets of Rio.
I don't think they were ever going to drag the safe out in the initial plan.
All right.
The initial plan was we're going to be sneaky.
Okay.
And get in there and, like, take everything out of the safe.
Okay. All right, that makes sense.
And then get back out.
All right, moving on. They are now, though, dragging a gigantic safe.
They are now the safe.
Just destroying the entire streets of Rio. Yeah, just dragging it behind him like a huge wrecking ball.
The heart wants what the heart wants.
Breaking it through buildings, because as they turn, because of physics, the safe goes one way and the cars go the other, and the safe goes into a building.
And they're being chased by the entire police force.
Hundreds of people are being killed.
Well, this is what I'm thinking to myself. All the pains they took to not kill anyone on, like, the prison bus and all of this other stuff, it's now just...
Kill those prisoners? Yeah, they're dragging... Because she even says, she's like, did you just destroy a bank? People were in that bank.
It went through the bank, and it was...
Like a knife through hot butter.
Well, and what's great is, too, is when they start to use the safe as a giant, like, club... and knock the police cars off onto the sidewalks.
Yes, and that same concept becomes turned up to level 100 in a few minutes.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that. So they cop cars are chasing them.
Yeah,
and now somebody has to kind of run point and get the cop cars off of their tail, which is who?
So Roman and Han show up.
In the cop cars.
Yeah, in the cop cars, not the rest of the cop cars.
Yeah, because for a while they're able just to drive alongside the cop cars as you would.
And then...
to kind of get in their midst, because you wouldn't, if you're a cop car on this high-speed chase, you're not going to pay attention to who's driving the cop car next to you. You're all just in pursuit. They start running them off the road.
Because of all this, then you hear over the radio that they're like, Mia's like, you have 10 seconds. Make this count.
Make the 10 seconds count. And they do, but we don't see how yet.
No. And, like, immediately the camera pans up to see, like, there's, like, a 500 more million cop cars. And we just, as moviegoers
at this point, assume make this 10 seconds count as in you got a 10-second gap now.
Yeah.
Do something
you
with
need
it.
to...
Yeah, you need to
Vamonos, man.
Okay. Is it just the cops chasing him at this point, or has thugs started chasing him? Phil Hartman thugs.
Evil, I think he is now...
He's in pursuit.
I think he now starts to enter it, because... they're about to get onto the bridge.
Because they were at the police station.
Yeah.
And they're like, not even God could get this money. And he's like, I'm not worried about God. I'm worried about Vin Diesel. Moving on.
I like the hushed tone that you said that.
I know, well.
Like you were even worried that you might...
My sacrilegious repeating of it. So, yes, they are... because it's the Fast and the Furious, they're headed toward a bridge.
They're on a bridge.
Stop incorporating bridges into your plan. For one.
And they are now trapped.
Yeah, they're done for.
Because the police rallied on the other side of the bridge, and
we don't know where Vin Diesel is at this point. No, we know where Vin Diesel is. We don't know where The Rock is at this point.
The Rock is just doing his thing.
And there's certain other people that we haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
But it comes into play. Do we know where the two guys are? The two wisecracking buddies?
No.
Oh, we do know where they are. Never mind. We'll get to it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
they're basically done for because they're on a one-way bridge and they're being followed by the cops, crooked cops, and by henchmen and evil Phil Hartman, who I appreciate evil Phil Hartman because for a upper-level evil boss, he's very hands-on.
He leads by example.
Yeah, he's there in the car. Yeah. He's killing people who are hooked up to chains. He's he's there. So
you gotta be a good leader.
Vin Diesel says,
he's like,
you gotta go.
You gotta go. You have a kid, blah, blah, blah. And then Brian's
You're going to get out of this. You go on to you're not going to make it to the end of this bridge anyway. Yeah. Where are you going to run to? We don't know where Mia's at. If you do escape from here, you're now wanted by the federal agents, the FBI, this drug cartel. Have fun. And you're still poor because we're not getting any of the money.
Yeah. And then Brian's like, that's not the plan. And Dom's like, it was always the plan.
This was always the plan. Dom's the hero. From the second he found out that they had a child, this was always the plan. That they could have a life together and he was going to be a martyr and somehow sacrifice himself. This was always the plan. I don't know what it meant for the plan for the rest of the people, but Dom always has this. In every one of these movies, Dom has this idea that this is his final ride. This is Shane.
Yeah.
This is it for me. No. But in his head, this is a man who wants desperately to be a martyr. He wants nothing more than to die for his family. This would be the ultimate sacrifice.
Yeah.
So, take it away.
He somehow cuts Brian free.
Yes.
And I don't know how I missed that.
I don't know how. There's so much stuff.
But, like, instantly now, he's spun around and he's facing Evil Tor head on.
Yes, he spins around.
And he starts to, like, gun the engine.
Yeah, well, he turns his car into what I say is... he turns his car into a rocket, basically.
Well, that's the thing.
He's got, like, all this super Nas in there, and he flips, like, 6 of them.
Well, that's the thing. He just keeps on flipping switches.
So Nas makes an appearance.
Yeah. Yeah, super... Not Cuban Nas, but just...
I don't know if Nas was in the last one.
Normal Nas.
So Nas makes an appearance, and he basically...
I mean, he just...
Because now he needs to be able to pull this huge safe that 2 cars went in and would not have been able to pull anyway with 1 car.
Yeah.
And his basically... There is literally blue fire coming out of the back of the exhaust.
I do want to point out one thing. I noticed when they were dragging this giant safe for miles down the road, I was saying to myself, there's no sparks coming off of this giant metal thing.
Coming off of it.
And, like, right after I thought that, the next scene, it, like, cut to the bottom of the thing, and there's just some little sparks coming off.
You're like, okay, movie. Yeah, because, like, again, with these huge action sequences, we can't talk about every beat, but there's some clever stuff in there where they're having to figure out,
demand.
We need to turn it this way. No, the safe isn't going to make that turn. Oh, well, we got to. It crashes through a building. But now his front wheels
off the ground.
Are lifting off the ground. He's just on his back wheels, and he's pulling this safe. Mm-hmm. And he's starting to drive in a way that he can maneuver this safe behind him.
Yeah.
He's using it as like, what's the thing that...
the mace?
Yeah, he's using it like a mace.
Yeah.
I had a battering ram, but no, that's right. It's like a mace. And he's like turning this way, and it slides forward and crushes this car. Then he swerves around another way, and it spins around and, like, tips a couple times and lands on top of this other car.
I saw the one that impressed me was the fact that the safe didn't take out her car, but, like, the chain...
Oh, that was cool.
Holding the safe in the car, like, just cut a car in half.
And I like it showed for a split second the dude in the car just dodged down because he knew he was about to be cut in half. So that was smart on that guy's part. I do like how sometimes in these movies, we talked about this a lot with the last one, they want you to know that people are dying brutally. Not by showing you them die, but by, in a weird serial killer way, showing a couple people get away.
Yeah.
Like, I will show this guy dodge down, just so you know that all the other people that we didn't show dodge out of the way, those people are definitely dead. We'll make a point for you to know. They're showing how many people died by showing that one survived. So then he's like you said, he's using a perfect way of putting it. He's using it as like a mace. Uh-huh. And he's like, boom, boom, boom. He's knocking all the cars out. And then how does he kill Phil Hartman car?
Well, they have like a showdown.
And he's like, kill him!
Guns it.
He's getting mad at his henchman. He's like, kill him already.
Yeah.
And henchman is kicking it downstairs in true middle management fashion. He's on the radio, kill him, alright?
Another, like, SUV that, like, the roof pops up and, like, a guy with a giant machine gun.
Oh, yeah!
Shows up. And, like...
Could have used that earlier.
Yeah, seriously. Could have used it at any point in this whole thing.
Alright.
And, like, you know, Dom's gunning it at them. And getting shot a million times with a machine gun, and at some point...
It kind of just flips their car.
Yeah.
It's very important. He just doesn't land it on top of them. I want to say that safe does land on top of a car at some point when it's bouncing around like a tennis ball.
Well, it hits some... Yeah, but then it almost falls off the ledge.
Yeah, it almost falls off the ledge. And then you see a shot where...
he loses control.
Yeah, evil Phil Hartman is looking, he's like, oh... It shows a point of view through the sunroof.
Well, and then...
And henchman is like, I'm out of here. He dives out of the seat.
Yeah, and Dom, like, jumps out of his car. Because the car lands on the SUV.
Oh, it's not the safe.
The safe doesn't.
Is the safe over the edge at that point?
No, the safe is, like, teetering on the edge.
The safe is teetering on the edge, and his car flips.
Yeah.
He jumps out of the car, and Dom's car lands on top of evil Phil Hartman's car. And you think evil Phil Hartman is probably crushed.
Yeah.
You know henchman's not crushed. You saw him jump out.
Yeah.
So Dom is sitting there.
So, yeah, evil Phil Hartman's dead.
You think evil Phil Hartman is dead. And Dom is there, and he's like, oh, boy, another rough day in Dom world.
He's not cut or scraped. Nothing's wrong with this man.
Not a bit. Not even a little bit.
Yeah.
And henchman comes out with the gun.
Shows up.
And Dom is like, oh, God, this is it.
Uh-huh. And then The Rock. No.
Nope. I'm shaking my head, folks. Not The Rock.
Sorry.
For the second scene in this movie,
Brian.
a guy's about to get shot, and then you see gunshots go through his back.
Brian turns back up.
And he's like, I thought I told you to leave. And then they're just sitting there, and they're just happy as could be, even though they've just destroyed a city, and once again, they're still wanted for murder.
And meanwhile, aren't there still, like, cops, like, at the end of the bridge waiting?
I think there's cops still at the end of the bridge, and Phil Hartman, and then The Rock pulls up.
Yeah.
And I don't know where Elaine is through all of this, but Phil Hartman pulls up, and he drags himself out of the car.
Yeah,
and The Rock
dead. Okay, never mind.
And The Rock pulls up, and he's like, and he thinks that The Rock is a police officer. Mm-hmm. So what happens? Well, do you remember this?
I know he just shot.
Yeah, The Rock just shoots him in cold blood.
Yeah.
The Rock, he's like walking up to him, and The Rock pulls up in a police car, and like Phil Hartman is like, "Oh, thank God, please help me." And he just walks by him and casually just shoots him 3 times. He's like, "That's for my team, you son of a bitch." Which The Rock uses that phrase like 80 times in this movie. I tried to restrain myself and only used it once. He just shoots this dude in the head in cold blood. And it's like, even though he's like, the authorities, and he gets up to The Rock, gets up to Dom and Brian, and Elena is there.
Yeah.
So she must have been with The Rock.
And then it's basically like, we're going to chase you. But he gets this, 24-hour...
He gives him 24 hours. Why does he give him 24 hours? Because
he likes him now.
They like him now. It's not like they ever did... Well, he saved his life.
Yeah.
He did save his life. So he's
we're doing a solid.
Yeah, we're doing a solid. I got 24 hours. But you know what? Use those 24 hours to get your stuff in order. Do this. Do that. Mm-hmm. I'm going to find you.
Yeah, and can't take any of the money.
Yeah, you can't take the money. I'm giving you a 24-hour head start. It won't matter, but now we're even.
Yeah.
And I have to think, I love this Hobbs-Dom dynamic. Because he's like, I will find you. And he's like, no, you won't.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, I've said it in every single one since 8. I really hope those guys did bury the hatchet. Because 8 really did miss.
Yeah, yeah.
Those guys having their tough guy talk, bouncing off of each other. Which was at its peak in that scene when, not to way backtrack, and I'll make this quick. That scene when he's like, this is Rio, and they're going back and forth to their tough guy talk. Just great scenes. So, they drive off. Mm-hmm. Okay. And Hobbs goes to open the safe.
Yeah. And now, I forget, it does the flashback?
They open the safe, and they see that it's empty.
Okay.
And then we get the flashback.
Okay. Yeah, because I remember, it's like, when he opens up the safe, and it's empty, I just like the fact that Hobbs does the,
Yeah, he's like, I love these guys, because he does love these guys.
Yeah.
And then we get the flashback where it's like, you have 10 minutes, or 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Make it count. And at this point, I'm like, oh yeah, where's Giselle and those 2 guys?
Yeah.
And that's where they are. They go under a bridge.
They magically get this giant safe into a modified garbage truck.
Yeah, she's driving a garbage truck, and they're able somehow
she's not just driving the garbage truck. She's pushing the fake safe.
Oh.
With the garbage truck.
Well, the 2 guys are there. What's their name? Dom and... their real names, I think, are like Dom and Tego. I don't know. I'm probably pronouncing that terribly. I don't remember their character names already. But they, do a real quick switcheroo where they latch onto the other safe and then latch onto the other safe. Yeah. Get the one on the garbage truck, get the other one off of the garbage truck and into the...
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, because I don't like when movies go back. I like when a movie has a secret twist, like, you didn't see this, like a Sixth Sense, and you go back and you watch and you're like, oh yeah, he never did talk to his wife directly. And oh yeah, we've seen this in other movies. Did they show at any point in that big long chase scene, do they go under a bridge? Because I will respect it if they actually show them drive under a bridge. Or did they all of a sudden go, well, you didn't see him drive under this bridge? Because I hate when movies do that.
See, I don't remember. I know, it panned out. They drove...
Yeah, they're driving, straight.
They drive straight, and then they drive, under the camera.
Okay.
And then the camera zooms in on, like, the 9,000 police cars.
Because I'll respect it. I might go back and see, because I'll respect it if they actually show them going
I don't
under
remember
that. I will very, very, very much respect this movie even more if they show them go under a bridge and you see a garbage truck driving down the road and turn off. Something that in all that chaos of that action you wouldn't notice for a split second the first time you're watching it. I'm going to have to go back and check that out.
Yeah.
I don't think they do.
No, I don't think they do.
I think it's the old... It was the butler that we never...
But, like, at the same time, I don't know. I don't think it...
Doesn't matter.
You know there's a window, and it's not like...
Yeah, they set up a window. And so they are back at headquarters. And I'm thinking to myself, why are they just chilling? They got 24 hours. Why is no one... They know where headquarters is. At this point, until we did this podcast... I didn't put two and two together that they probably would have went to a secondary headquarters. I'm thinking they're back. I'm like, The Rock knows where this place is. Why doesn't he just immediately go there? And then I'm like, no, he did give him 24 hours. So maybe he's a man of his word. Yeah. So they got their 24 hours. They're going to open the safe. And luckily the underwear thing works. Yeah. They open the safe. All the money falls out. They hug. They celebrate.
This is great.
They did it. You see kind of like Giselle and Han kind of look at each other and smile. That's obviously already a thing. You see Brian, their trouble's over. I tried to put myself in their situation for this moment, thinking like, yeah, there would be such a sense of relief that you just didn't have to worry anymore. That if you can just now get out of Rio to this place, you have $10 million. If you can find a place where the feds can't come after you, you would never have anything else to worry about. You can't go back to LA, but they're not worried about it at this point. And then we see a little montage of how they're spending their money. And this is what was confusing to me because they ain't hiding.
No.
What's his name opens a garage. That's a callback to earlier where they have a little scene where they're talking about how would you spend your money. He's like, I would open a garage. He's like, you would get a day job? And he's like, yeah, I'm a simple guy. That would be my dream. Yeah. So where's this garage? I don't know. Roman certainly isn't hiding. He's driving around in flashy cars and flashy suits with beautiful women.
And makes it a point to say that it's like the one car in the...
He thinks it is. Western. Did you enjoy that?
That was pretty funny.
And then another car pulls up. He's like, Taj bought one too. Yeah. It's like, I guess there's two cars like that. Roman is good in this. Yeah. And then we see Mia and Brian. We see Han and Giselle. They're just like, hey, let's go visit Berlin. Yeah. Like, they're not hiding.
They're like, but there's the illusion. Do you want to go to... I thought you wanted to go to Tokyo.
Yeah, because they have to do that. They have to constantly
He's all like, we'll get there someday.
They do that in the fourth one, too, that you'll see in a couple weeks. They constantly have to allude to Tokyo.
Don't go to Tokyo.
It's like, please don't go to Tokyo, Han. And then we see that Brian and Mia are on some beach somewhere. Yeah. And then this is what's absolutely confusing. Dom shows up. And who's he with?
Elaine.
So has she just given up?
She just joined the team, man.
I think she just joins the team.
Did she just, like, go back? Did he go back to get her?
I don't know. Because technically she's still The Rock's partner. Well, maybe not. She's just kind of a liaison. Yeah, she's The Rock's partner in 7. Yeah. But yeah, she just like... Does she just tell The Rock, nah, I'm done? Does The Rock just go about his business? And then she just like, well, guess I'm not going to be a cop in Rio when this entire cartel wants me dead and entire crooked police force, so I guess I'll just... So she's just part of the crew. Yeah. Because they're together in the next one. Because, yeah, we see Vin Diesel waking up and immediately drinking booze and then going out working out at Injured, and they're together. So they show up, and they kind of do their hug and talk. And, hey, you made it. We're seeing each other. Which I guess if you're in this criminal element, every time you saw each other, it would be like a big thing. Like, hey, you made it to wherever we're at. Awesome. We're all safe here for a while. Roman is just off driving in the States, flashy cars, but whatever. The other guy just opened a legitimate business and nobody seems to care. But it's fine. Don't worry. Oh, maybe... Is everybody clear? Because they didn't kill the agents. So are they all in the clear and it's just Dom, Mia, and Paul Walker who are still on the run? Because technically they're still on the run from breaking out Vin Diesel. Is everyone else in the clear? No, they still stole a ton big safe of money and destroyed Rio.
I don't know. I'm not going to worry about it.
It doesn't matter. The point being is they have a little thing at the end, and they're like, Brian, one of the little points of the movie was he's not convinced that Vin Diesel let him win that race for the gift for his soon-to-be son. Mm-hmm. So they want to have another race, and you're thinking, we're going to see a race. Nope. You kind of see it over the credits.
Yeah.
There's a lot of we're going to do a race.
We also missed the part where what's-her-face, Vince's wife comes home.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a giant thing of money there.
He gets his share. I liked that. It's like, does she even know at this point that her husband and the father of her infant child has been brutally gunned down? Well, she knows he's a criminal. She has to know he's a criminal.
I want to know, like, if you're living in, like, a terrible area of Rio...
No, because they're all family. You saw they were all watching out for each other. They were all on the steps.
$10 million shows up.
It just sits at an open screen door on a table, facing an open screen door of a shanty town. I thought about that, but I took it as they were all protective of each other. So they wouldn't steal from Vince's wife. No more than if I walked past your house and saw $300 sitting on your kitchen table. I wouldn't steal from you. Then again, this is a crime-ridden community where somebody would take that money off that table. But whatever. I like how this is what sticks with you.
You would at least want a share of that money for not stealing it.
Yeah, like, hey, can you spread some of that $10 million that you have around? And again, we're introduced to what I think eventually will be, whether it's 10 or 15 years from now, real time, we have another child of one of the Fast crew. I do think we're going to see a Fast and Furious The Next Generation at some point. You got Vince's kid, Dom has a kid, Brian and Mia have 2 kids. There's plenty of time for it to turn out that Han and Giselle had a kid off screen that nobody saw in between movies.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to see a Fast and Furious, the new class. And then we see they go on the race. We don't get a race. There's not a lot of racing in this. And I read a thing from that a studio exec was doing in an interview where that was a conscious choice, where this was them trying to turn this franchise. They thought it was too limited of a base of an audience base just to have it to be about car racing. They did make a concentrated effort to turn these into heist movies and action adventures. Yeah. So there was a reason why you didn't see like their car chase at the end, or when they went to the street race, their race. And then it goes to credits. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to ask you this because you did not stick around for 7.
I let these roll.
You let these roll, and what did you see?
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
There's a crime been committed by car people.
They thankfully don't make you stay till the end of the credits part, which I was appreciative of, because that is so hard to see.
Yeah, Roch is at Roch headquarters.
He's at his desk. And who walks in? You don't know who this is.
No, I don't.
She's in the second one.
Okay.
This was another big, like, oh, wow! She's in the second one. Her name is Monica Fuentes. She plays the FBI agent who's chasing after Paul Walker and Tyrese in Too Fast, Too Furious.
Okay.
She's a main character in the second one. And has been every single time since Fast 5, they keep saying that she's going to play a big part. She was like cast and supposed to be in this 8th one supposedly because it's in New York. And every movie comes by, they're like, okay, are they going to bring her back in? Are they going to bring her back in? So far, she's just had this cameo appearance, I'm sure she'll return. And she's got something for The Rock to see.
Yeah, it's the heist.
And it's your favorite thing that you mentioned before. I can't just come in and tell you something. Hey, look in this envelope. Well, I'm real busy. Can you just tell me what's in the envelope? No, just look in it.
Yeah.
There's like 40 papers in here.
Yeah, because
it's not on the top one.
They talk about the heist and like, this is why would I be interested in this?
Yeah, she's like, 2 people just did this heist in London. And he's like, is it Dom's crew? She's like, nope. And he's like, yeah, I'm not interested then.
Yeah.
And she's like, keep looking. And he's flipping through papers and he's getting annoyed.
And then there's the picture.
Yeah.
Of Letty.
Well, he somehow knows who Letty is, but I guess he would because he's probably at this time done extensive research.
If he did a bunch of research about who was the one incorruptible top.
Yes, he's done research and he knows who Dom's. Because he says, when they're doing the thing, he's like, I want all Dom's known associates and I want them, cross-referenced against who's ever coming to customs for Rio. So he knows all his known associates already. He would know about Letty. Point being...
Wait a minute. And that's the same folder he brings to Dom in the next movie.
Yes. Yes. So he did know.
Folder
He would know who
transcends.
Letty was. Interesting thing about this, I was reading some behind-the-scenes production notes on this. This isn't my Fact of the Furious. I'll get to that. They filmed that. Michelle Rodriguez found out about that from watching the movie. And then they called Michelle Rodriguez and said, would you like to be in Fast and the Furious 6? So if she would have said no...
No.
I have no idea what they would have done, but I
They
guess
would have done something. It would have been like a Fastback podcast.
Yeah, it's like...
We're going to watch The Mummy. No!
No. It would have been something where it's like, they must have just... I would be a little insulted if I was Michelle Rodriguez.
You're in this movie now.
Just to assume, yeah, she's got nothing going on. We'll put her in there. She'll do it. We knew you would do it. All right, Leif, let's do what we usually do.
Mm-hmm.
Most absurd moment. What was your most absurd moment in this movie? Usually you pick a character moment, which is always exciting for me. Was it a character moment this time, or was it a action set piece?
I don't know what's weird is because this movie, it was absurd, but it wasn't like the rest. This one was a different beast, I think.
It really was.
But I think... Oh, man.
This one more seemed like an actual, just straight up, like, this is a legitimate, just decent action movie.
Yeah.
I really do think you could just watch this one.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Not watch any of the other ones, and just completely enjoy this.
I would say probably the safe delivery.
Okay.
Like we talked about earlier. Like, how are we getting the safe there? How did you order? Everyone is wanted. How do you have money? How did you get the safe there?
I would buy that. As far as just like, this is ridiculous. Because you said many times on this podcast, when you're talking about what's ridiculous in this movie, with the plethora of ridiculous stuff, you have to pick the most ridiculous plot point. It can't be jumping over a helicopter.
Oh, no.
Or dragging a safe.
Of course they're going to drag the safe. That makes sense.
Yeah,
they got a test safe.
Set piece wise, now that you've seen a couple of these, and we talked about the 2 bridge sequences in 6 and 7, how did the major the plane sequence in 6, the jumping cars through buildings in Dubai in 7, how did you feel? I felt like there was less big action set pieces in this. It was definitely not like 7 where it was just one to the next. But as far as, I guess the major one is definitely the safe.
Yeah.
That was maybe the only one. There was action set pieces, like the roof chase.
What's weird with this one is the fact that it's like, with the plane, and when they're chasing the plane down in the other one, that one's absurd because it's like, how long is that runway?
Okay.
Why does that keep on going? When your car's driving on a street, okay, streets are everywhere.
Streets are everywhere.
Cars can drive forever. Once you get past they're dragging a giant safe, everything is like somewhat believable.
Okay. Did you feel that? How did you feel that main? Because since this was the main set piece, because this was before they went completely nuts and had 20 set pieces. How did you feel like that one stood up against the sub sequence or the 2 bridge sequences or the plane? Did you like it? Did you think it was a little too simple compared to what you're used to?
I mean, it was simple in terms of
comparatively,
not over the top insane.
Yeah, because there was, like I said, there was set sequences in this that were action. But it was like an action movie. Like, okay, they're having a rooftop chase.
Well, this is a shootout. It wasn't like an unbelievable.
No.
Like I said, once you got past the giant safe being drugged by cars, it wasn't like an unbelievable.
No.
Thing.
So that's your most absurd.
But ordering the safe.
Ordering the safe. My favorite line, and I didn't talk about this because I wanted to save it for this. This was a line that The Rock had, an exchange, I should say, when his number 2 guy shows up at the train thing, and he's like, I got good news and bad news. Do you remember this?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I got good news and bad news. What do you want first? And he goes, I like my dessert first. And then he tells him the good news about the tracks, and then he goes, now give me the damn veggies. And he tells him the bad news about losing the tracks in the swamp or whatever. I just thought that was such a, I like my dessert first, now give me my veggies. Just a very clever way of saying you want the good news or the bad news first. Fact of the Furious, This is the sequence when Justin lazily copies something off Wikipedia, so you have fact. Something about the foot pursuit was filmed over the course of 1 week in the small hillside town. And I just like this. This means nothing, and I gave a couple other facts about stuff throughout this anyway. Quote, the scene was considered difficult to shoot as pathways were slippery from moist tropical heat, and the scene involved actors and stunt doubles running while avoiding dogs, chickens, and other stray animals in the area. So I just love the concept of them trying to film this really closed, tight, like down these alleys of Rio set piece where they're just running and leaping off buildings, and turn around the corner, chickens everywhere, cut!
Instantly
Take
flip.
it back. Like, we got chickens in the shot. I enjoyed that.
Mm-hmm.
How many wheels? Anyone listening for the first time?
No,
Thank you. This is how we talk about 4 wheels, 4 stars. Haha, get it.
I would have to say 4.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. This is what it impressed me. This one impressed me because it's like...
This is the one I was waiting for you to see. And this is the one that was always in the back of my head. If you listen back to these, I'll say things like, I can give this one 3 because I know what's coming. Mm-hmm. And you not knowing what was coming was weary because you didn't want to come out the gate with a fast 8 and be like 4 wheels, because then you have to, everything has to be based upon the fact that you gave the first one 4 wheels. But for me, this one is legitimately a good movie. And so I asked you this at the beginning, and I said I had a point to make about Fast 8, and I said I wanted to get back to it, and I don't remember what it was. It might be something about them all having kids and there being a spin-off about them having kids. I don't remember. But I asked you at the beginning of this, are you enjoying these yet at an ironic level still because we're doing a funny podcast where we talk about goofy action movies? Or have you gotten to a point where you were legitimately taking joy from these and enjoying these? And I wanted to wait till this one specifically to ask you, where do you land on that? Because this was a good movie.
Yeah, well, see, it's been weird because I think starting with, probably the last one.
The 6th one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know we're running long, but...
That's fine.
Did I tell you in Top Gun my existential angst with movies?
No.
Where, like, I don't like watching movies because at the very end...
Oh,
like,
yes, you did.
The characters leave...
It's over.
And I'm left all alone.
Yeah, it's over.
It's like that. It's reached that, and that's how I know usually if I like a movie, because like when I'm sad and alone, that's a good movie.
You don't want it to be over.
Yeah.
When it leaves you sad that these people are, that you're not really on that crew.
Yeah.
Much like when we were little kids and imagined being on the Star Trek crew or on the Sequest DSV.
Yeah.
Or any number of things. Or someone who's a Lord of the Rings fan and imagining themselves on that journey.
Oh, yeah.
That's when you know that you love something.
Yeah, and that's what it is. It's, it was weird seeing, like, 8 and 7 and stuff like that, because you have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
But, like, with this, it's like, yeah, I do want to see what's going on with, Han.
Do you wish you would have watched them in the right order now? Or it doesn't matter?
I don't think it matters.
Okay.
I think probably for me, this is probably a better... version anyway, because it does force more of a...
Because you probably would have never got through the first couple. Let me ask you this. That was what I wanted to ask you, if it was the experience was being ruined for you by not watching them in order. Every time we do one of these, I ask you, what is your anticipation level for watching the next one?
I don't know anymore. Because, like I said, up until just a minute ago, I didn't know that Tokyo Drift wasn't number 4.
No, you thought we were going to watch Tokyo Drift next.
I was all psyched up for Tokyo Drift, and that didn't happen. So
I really enjoy the next one, the 4th one. A lot of people think it's kind of a middle-of-the-road one. Mm-hmm. I enjoy it quite a bit. It's not as absurd. The action set pieces are kind of more subdued. But yeah, this for me, if I haven't said it already, if I have, I apologize. This is 4 wheels. I would enjoy this if this was on TNT on a Saturday and I'm like, I'll watch this. I would have enjoyed not even just being a fan of these Fast and Furious movies, which I am. This was just a solid little action
and that's
movie.
The thing. Even scratching my head trying to find like an absurd moment is the fact it's like it's all a good, solid, enjoyable movie.
And seeing this one, you can see why the direction it took, why they become more and more absurd as sequels do, and why they're now heist movies and they're government agents. After this one, it was never going to go back to them riding cars. It will at some point. We talk a lot off air about where these movies will go. And there at some point will be 10 or 15 years from now a movie where this is the whole franchise is rebooted and it gets back to the roots of like this is about car racing. But it's not going to be in these next two movies.
No. Oh, no.
So thank you for listening. Next week, who knows what we're going to do. At this point, we're not even going to say what we're going to do. We will see. We still have 4 Fast and the Furious movies and 2 Triple X's to get through. That'll be sprinkled throughout other stuff. I can probably say won't be doing stuff like Catwoman again, but who knows? Anything can happen. Thank you for listening, Leif, as always. Why don't you tell people where they can reach us?
At Fastback Podcast is our handle.
Yes.
And we are everywhere. We're on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, website, fastbackpodcast.com.
Yeah, which fastbackpodcast.com, still very exciting. It's been up for a couple weeks. Not getting really any traction on YouTube, but getting traction from somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
People are finding this. And I've noticed that like we've been added to podcast lists that we didn't add ourselves to.
So whoever's
that
doing
somebody
that,
added us to. Like, so thank you for that. Again, we're always looking for comments or questions.
Oh, and email is fastbackpodcast@gmail.com.
Fastbackpodcast@gmail.com. Reach out to us. Thank you for listening. I'm happy, Leif, that you are enjoying these movies more and more every time. This would be a miserable experience if you were just like, every time, like, man, I really don't know if I can do this. I'm glad that you're sitting down to these with some kind of anticipation. We anticipate the next episode as we do every week. We hope you do too. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Stay furious.